Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Ted Santos, and I am your host. And tonight, I'm your host of Straight Talk. We are the talk show that is made for men. It's made by men. It is the place that not even women want to miss out on, because we take on life, love, relationships, social challenges, business, money, and we always do it from a man's perspective. This is the place where political correctness dies. This is the place where men get to speak like men. And some say I'm a caveman. So let's bring in the caveman beat. Wrong show. Don't know how that happened. What's going on? What's going on, everyone? It's Sunday night, and you know what time it is. It's 7 o'clock, and it's time for some straight talk. You know, that talk show that is made for men by men. And it's the place that not even the ladies want to miss because we give the greatest opportunity for man to be able to speak like men, even if you want to be caveman, me man, you woman, man speak, woman listen. This is the place where men get to think, speak, and act like men, where toxic masculinity doesn't exist. The freedom of manhood. And if any woman wants to really understand how men think, what's really on their mind in an unfiltered way, this is the best place in the universe. So I see you in the house, country boy. Ghost, what's going on? What's going on? If you guys joined me Friday, you had a very special treat. We had a woman who was a sex worker, and man, did she laid out some reality on what women really, really want. Very interesting discussion. If you haven't seen it, it's an intimate discussion, intimate conversation with the sex worker. And tonight, well, this is not like a sequel, but it's very interesting because we hear so much about equality and women can do anything a man can do. And it was very interesting to hear what a woman who was 27, stands 6'1", and she makes men pay for her company to look at her. Very interesting. Clearly not what you would say is equal to men. I mean, whether it's OnlyFans or Cam Girl or Call Girl or uh, what do they call them? Escorts. They still depend on men. So difficult for women to achieve the kind of equality they claim to want when they depend on men so much. And we're going to open up that exact can of worms. We're going to get into it straight talk style. And there's a woman on Instagram who likes to comment on my sites. She has many things to say on my posts. I'd love it if you joined me in this conversation and make your case. Love it. Would love it. The door is open. No need to run and hide. So, gentlemen, question: Do women really want equality? I was part of a very interesting conversation on Clubhouse. This was sort of the gist of it. Men and women, very much back and forth, asked some really good questions. Women never ever responded to it. What's going on, Grego? Good to see you in the house, man. So let me give you some of my thoughts on this topic. And for me, the thoughts go like this. And I think women have misrepresented themselves. So I always like a second topic. My other topic for this show is what would happen if women were treated equal to men. So that's kind of where we're coming from. Do women really want equality? What would happen if women were treated equal to men? Is that what women absolutely truly want? Do they really comprehend what that means? Even when you talk about business, money, economics, I mean, you guys have heard me say the number one way women achieve wealth in their life is through marriage, not through a job. The number one way is through marriage. See you guys coming in and into Instagram. What's going on, Drew? Uh, this D up. Good to see you guys. So we're talking about, do women really want equality? What would another way to look at it is, what would happen if women were treated equal, like they say, equal to men? So here are some of my thoughts. For more than a century, women have had access to money and education, yet they have never produced a Fortune 500 corporation that employs females only. They have never ever founded a Fortune 500. And for some reason, even though they lack equal accomplishments as men, they believe they are equal. If men were to accept the idea of complete equality, what would happen to women? Would they be employed in the military? And think about that. Would they be employed in the police? How about the fire department? If companies made women meet the same exact standards as men because of equality, how many women would move up even into management? See, when we look at, and then when we look at social aspects of life, would women want to have equal responsibilities in dating? Would they want to be penalized the same as men for criminal offenses? And so there's an obvious case where women are asking for more than their fair share. So look at the WNBA. Women are actually asking to be paid equal to men. I did a show on that several months ago. So this pattern, when you look at the WNBA, is seen throughout society. Tonight, we're going to undress the topic and deal with the facts. We're going to strip it down, ladies. So come join us, ladies, with the facts. Exactly. We're going to pull out the facts, Drew. Absolutely. We're going to pull them out. Yeah. In some ways, we won't be pulling out, right? We're going to impregnate this conversation. Grego, I don't know if feminism was ever genuine because I don't know if it ever was. There was always this notion of getting the man out the house. Charles Fourier, French sociologist in 1837, 1838, is the one who coined the term feminism. So women didn't even coin the term, a man did it. It's always been this socialistic structure. So you have your shoes on. You're ready to go, country boy. You're a caveman too, huh? Chest and arms. Yes, it's Sunday. Chest and arms for me too. Definitely. I'll run tomorrow. Yeah, yeah. The Smith's machine is less. It's less. But I still like the free. I still like the free bench. But yeah, I mean, I do what works, right? It's what's available. Oh, cool, country boy. Blue, huh? It's a blue day. Hey, and Grego, I did this whole show on it, and I pulled out all these stats showing that women don't play the same amount of games. They don't play. They don't have the same amount of players. They don't perform at the same level. I mean, it was just went on and on. They don't earn the same. We looked at how much. I think the NBA is like earns grosses billions of dollars, and the WNBA grosses like $100 million, something like that, and it's still being funded by men. So, so the WNBA is that's a perfect example where it's obvious, right? And it's interesting if women will actually debate and argue and say, well, the women in the WNBA put in the same hours of practice, which is not provable. Um, they have all these reasons, but the fact is they cannot justify. Like, where's the money going to come from for them? And then if you look at endorsements, are they getting the same kind of endorsements that men are? So it's pretty obvious when you look at it from a sports perspective. And I think women will kind of concede and say, well, that's athletics. Well, it's different. But technically, they're using the same basis in argument that the WNBA players are saying for corporate America. I mean, all the stats. If you take a female only company and a male company, the male company has greater productivity than the women. Women take 60% more sick leave. When I brought this up with women, they said, well, women have children. I said, yes. And why should a company be obligated to pay you for that? They said, well, then they said, well, studies show you're a better performer with the more time you take off. Like, they were just coming up with excuse after excuse, and they should get paternity leave, and it's unfair, and men should have paternity leave. Why should a company pay for you getting pregnant? Like, that's your choice. The company still needs someone to fill your position. And I talked about CEOs I know who said they put women on a fast track, and every time those women got married, got pregnant, sometimes they returned, a lot of times they didn't. These are all things that women don't want to deal with. Right. Companies don't owe you work at will. There's no contractual obligation that a company has to someone. They hire you, it's at will, and if they want to fire you, they do. Yeah, interesting, Drew. Right. Women are socialists at heart, right? They want all the free stuff. And yet men should work for everything. Men are hunters. They should chase us to make us feel good. All this stuff. So you guys know I like to do a screen share. So I'm giving you a perspective of where I'm coming from, where this came. It just really interesting having this conversation with women, and when you actually lay out facts, it's interesting how the crickets show up instead of women talking. Now, sometimes they'll say, "Oh, you have to give me the facts," and Department of Labor has all kinds of statistics that men are more productive. They work longer hours, and here's the most interesting thing, and none of these things I'm saying have anything to do with me or my opinion of women. During World War II, when a huge amount of women were in the workforce, especially in factories, and they're making equipment, ammunition, all kinds of things that have to go to the men who are fighting overseas. Well, at some point, men needed significantly more equipment. So what did that mean? Overtime. Everyone who was working had to put in many more hours so that they could significantly increase productivity and the products that they send overseas. So there were still men working in factories. So when they enforced overtime during World War II in the factories here in the US, accidents for women went up 150%. Accidents for men, unchanged. Women's bodies were not able to withstand the demands of pressure of men, of working. And this is what happens even as doctors and lawyers, the same exact thing happens. The pattern doesn't matter what the industry is. So we're truly not equal. We're pretending that we are. And men will put in more hours, yet women will say, pay me the same as you pay the man. Well, if you put in 10, 12 hours instead of 8, then you can earn that. And if you're as productive as a man side by side, you also can do that. And that's not happening. Well, and Grego. So this whole equality of opportunity and outcome, a lot of the women tried to debate, like, if we don't know what the results are, if you give women the same opportunities. Well, that's a lie, because we look at Sweden and some of these Scandinavian companies where they are much more egalitarian. And even though women have the same opportunities as men, women still take jobs where they make a difference. They're in healthcare, just like in the US. Like over 80% of people in healthcare are women. Like I think women need to understand, as men, we have no problem with that. If you want to do healthcare, mental health care, you want to do things and work in nonprofits and do all kinds of things where you make a difference, we need that. We're not against that. But when you demand and say you're entitled to be CEOs of companies, and we don't have any women that ever founded a Fortune 500 company. And one of the excuses they were saying, well, it takes time. Well, let's think. Women like to brag. Well, in the 1800s, there was a Madam C.J. Walker who was a millionaire, and she was so successful. So this is more than 100 years that women have had access to education, capital, owning property. In over 100 years, you cannot build a Fortune 500 company. How old is Google? How old is Facebook? Facebook is not even 20 years old yet. And it's trading on the exchange, earning billions of dollars. And that was done by a guy who didn't even finish college. He was in college when he started the company. So if it takes women significantly longer to build. Like if you need 100, 200 years to build a Fortune 500 company, then you're not equal. You're not as competent as getting things done when it comes to a company. And that may sound harsh to some women, but it's really not, because you have education, you have capital, you have women who inherited billions of dollars. You have Rockefellers, you have Vanderbilts, you have the Carnegies, you have the Astors, you have the Sam Walton's children and grandchildren. All of these people have inherited hundreds of millions and sometimes billions, tens of billions of dollars. And none of them, women, have produced a Fortune 500 company. And they don't even invest in women who will do that. Those women who are so wealthy would prefer to put their money in a male company. Interesting, isn't it? Because if it takes women so long to be able to create a big company, I mean, just think how many companies in the United States that employ female only and have 100 plus people working for the company. I bet it's zero. Yeah, I haven't looked it up, but there are lots of companies that are female only and they fail. Like if they bring a man into the company, it alters the whole culture of the organization and they become more productive. And by the way, I've had clients who were small businesses that were female only. They will need a million years. Right, Drew, right. Feelings don't build rockets, exactly. They don't build bridges. There's a story someone told me about that women built a bridge. It was just for foot traffic, and the bridge didn't last a week before it collapsed. Collapsed. Foot traffic, no trucks, no cars, just people walking across. So I'm in a few minutes. I'm going to take a call. I'm going to share some articles with you guys, and we're going to look at some videos and see what some of the facts are. And if there's a woman in the house, I'm going to give you two ways to join the conversation. You can call in at area code 323-642-1387. That's a call-in number. It's 323-642-1387. And I'm actually going to drop a link. So if you'd like to join me on YouTube, I just dropped the link. So guys, if you haven't smashed the like button, this is a good time to do that. Hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, great time to do that. Hit the bell to make sure you receive notifications and check to make sure if you still subscribe, because YouTube unsubscribes people on their own. And share this, because this conversation is kind of a dilemma. A lot of guys have been fed propaganda and not given the facts. So it ends up making men become feminist and not really clear what they're supporting. So tonight we are really going to get in to the facts, and we're going to listen to what some of the women say. We're going to listen to what men say. We're going to listen to also what happens when reality hits, right? So, if we look at equality, how would that affect dating? So we're going to talk about that too. In the meantime, I'm going to take a call, area code 870-870. You're live and on the air with Straight Talk. What's your name and where you calling from?
Good evening, Ted. How's it going, man?
What's going on, country boy?
Boy, when I thought things couldn't get any better, man, here you come back and surprise me with more. Yes, sir. I'm enjoying this. You don't even know how bad I've been waiting on this show, Ted.
Really?
Yes, sir. I've been waiting on this one.
Well, we're gonna get down tonight. I'm telling you, we're gonna get down.
Yes, sir. Let's do this thing here, cause I'm gonna be honest with you. They don't really want all the responsibility equal to no man. So unless somebody that lied to me, Ted, and tried to sugarcoat this thing, we really need to unpack some of this feminism brainwashing delusion that's running around out here.
Well, I think the craziest thing is a lot of men are brainwashed.
It's both ways. You got your simps, and then you got your men that's woke out here. And I'm one of the woke ones, kid. I ain't drinking that Kool-Aid.
So you're not drinking Kool-Aid, huh? You're not hanging out with, what is the name? Jim Jones, huh?
You're right. So I don't know what these people drinking or what kind of Oompa Loompa weed they smoking, but they need to stop smoking it because they act like they crazy.
So we're gonna lace their weed with something tonight. So we're gonna give them something else to smoke.
Yes, let's do that because I love your intellect and I love how you be explaining things and breaking it down for me.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem.
So let's see if we can get into this a bit. So I found an interesting article. I'm going to share it with you guys. It's from the Huffington Post. Huffington Post was founded by Ariana Huffington. So this should be interesting, right? Let's see.
Yeah, it sounds interesting.
So give me a second. So we're going to do a screen share, and just want to make sure it's showing up. There we go. Okay, Huffington Post. The article is called "What Society Would Look Like If Women Were Equal to Men." And I think this is interesting. It's written by Karen Camp. And it's from November of 2012, updated January of 13. So article's not that bad. So let's see if we can breeze through this. It starts with, in college in the 1980s, I remember feminism as a word so confusing and controversial, I dared not speak of it. Over the years, as I lived, worked, and traveled, the concept of feminism came into focus. So this is a woman writing, and she's telling you her story. But how is it defined? I looked it up in Webster's the other day and found feminism defined as the theory of the political, economic, and social equality of the sexes. I'm not sure why that is so controversial in hindsight. So she's not sure why there's a theory of political, economic, and social equality. So socially, she thinks that men and women are the same. So I don't know, maybe she pays for all of her dates, pursues and approaches men, asks for their number. I don't know, because that's social, right? She opens doors for men and all that good stuff. Economics, well, like I was saying before, maybe she's one of those women who created a Fortune 500 company and I just don't know about it. Politically, now that's interesting. Over the years, and I haven't watched television for about 9 years now, but I've watched different presidents be elected and watching their campaigns. And I've watched news reporters literally stop people on the street. And it was fascinating when they asked, what do you think about presidential candidate, blah, blah, blah. And it was interesting to hear, even back when I lived in DC. So I've seen this in New York and DC, two different cities. Interesting to hear women say, "Oh, I would never vote for that guy." Did you see that tie he wore? Do you see the colors do you see the clothes? Like, no way, I would never vote for a guy who dresses that way. Uh, I've heard them say, "I would never vote for that guy because he's not attractive." We're the United States. How can we have an unattractive president of the country representing us? So I would never vote for him. So that's a little scary that the issues that's on the platform of a presidential campaign are irrelevant based on the way a guy dresses or the way he looks. He doesn't look handsome enough to represent the nation. So these are women saying this. I'm sure there are plenty of women that are very savvy, but we may be looking at more of outliers. Uh, but anyway, let's go on with this article here. So she said that definition got me thinking. Definition of feminism. What would society look like if the word theory was taken out of the definition and women had perfect equality, is what she's saying. That's what she's wondering. Goes on, she said, I talked to a number of women and all agreed that if women had half the power, things would be quite a bit different. If half of Congress were women, many agreed that life would be better for women and children. Interesting. The school day just might match the work day, and healthcare would cover contraception and Viagra. It's so, said Kristen Bornstein, founder of the Women's Social Network, A Band of Wives, and author of the newly released book, Nothing But the Truth, So Help Me God. So, hey, look, you guys understand that? Women think Viagra is important. So is contraception. It goes on, the significance of women holding at least half of all seats was detailed in this New York Times op-ed last week. The authors outlined recent research they conducted, which concluded female lawmakers significantly reshape policies only when they have true parity with men. So while the electoral gains by women in the polls last week is a step in the right direction, there's still a long way to go. In an equal world, with half of all Fortune 500 CEOs being women instead of 3% today, women would earn the same as their male counterparts. So let's just think about that. And we're going to get to things like abortion also. But women say, my body, my choice, and you can't force me to have an abortion, or you can't force me to not have one. So if a man tells a woman what to do, we are considered controlling. So think about that. Men go out, they invest their money. Lots of men lose the money they invested in companies that we don't even know about. They just didn't make it, or they lasted a short period. Just think, a little more than 100 years ago, there were, in the United States alone, there were 100 automobile manufacturers. Most of them failed. That means the investors in those more than 100 automobile factories lost their money. Maybe they put money in somewhere, another company, and got it back. But you have to understand, men risked their capital. Not only did they risk their capital, sweat equity, they worked hard and these companies didn't make it. Or the companies were bought up and we don't even know about them. That's just automobile manufacturers. But just look across the board. There were even more telecommunication companies before the 1900s. Just unbelievable. So look at the dot-com boom that we just had not too long ago, 20 years ago, and then it burst. All the investors that lost money, all the people who put in, their sweat equity, the employees who didn't take salaries or very low salaries because they were banking on the company, blowing up, doing well, and getting their money back in stock, like many people did with Microsoft. So lots of men lost out because they took risks and they didn't all work out. And no one gets upset and plays victim. Companies succeed and companies fail. So if men put all of that kind of effort, investment, sweat equity, that means men own that. We put in the effort. How is it women believe it's okay to come along and tell us what to do with the very things that we built? Lots of people say your company is your baby. How can someone come along and tell you what to do with your baby that you built from nothing? So women say,
yeah, that do sound messed up.
It is. So women say when a man tells a woman what to do. We are controlling. Yet women want to tell men what to do with the very things that we own and we bought. They want to tell us that we should have 50% CEOs. Even if you look at the government, look at the guys who died on the battlefield creating the United States of America. Men died for this. We didn't put women on the front line. Not saying no women died, but we did not force them. We didn't control them. We protected them, and this has always been the case.
Yo, Ted,
What's
quick,
that?
just briefly, another point that need to be added along to what you just said. Them dudes would consider you a coward, and they would kick your tail if you had to put a woman on the front line back there. And you know I'm telling the truth.
Even
A
today,
man was a man unless he fought for his country.
even today, look at this whole thing, selective service, and saying that women should be in a draft. I'm going to see if I can find something, and let's see what women say about that. Are women excited about being drafted into the military and potentially being put on the front line of the battlefield? Do they want that? Large numbers of women, thousands, being trained for battle. In other words, being trained to die. Men take that on with honor. Women don't want that. Yet they want equality. They want rewards. So that I'm just confused. So just let me go on with this. So I'm just going to restate. In an equal world, with half of all Fortune 500 CEOs being women instead of 3% today, women would earn the same as their male counterparts. Bornstein told the Story Exchange she believes having more women in charge would lead to higher rates of employee retention and paid family leave at companies. With women earning equal pay, the average incomes would rise and the number of families in poverty would fall. The GDP in the US would grow by 9% according to UN estimates. So we would all be enjoying a better economy, and the US would have a lower rate of public assistance. So here's where women, well, let me go more because just remember that. They're saying women earn equal and the economy would blossom and there'd be less people on public assistance. That's what they believe. And with more power, the status of women would be elevated and we wouldn't be exposed to the same number of degrading ads, I guess like commercials. You would not open a magazine to the Valentino ad shown, they have a picture, because women would make up to 50% of the advertising world's creative directors instead of the current 3%, Bornstein said. And many agree we would have fewer wars. Women send children into wars with a much greater sense of grief than men do, said Carol Evans, president of Working Mother Media and CEO of National Association of Female Executives. At the same time, and so that's another thing, would there really be less wars? Like, is that a fact? Let me see if I can find an article to support the inaccuracy of that statement. It goes on, at the same time, some things would stay the same. Women still have to fire people, they have to make hard decisions, and they have to pass laws. But women would do these things by working together with a longer term view and an eye to the future. That's what they're saying. They would have a longer term view and an eye to the future. She said part of this is because women focus more on what life will be like for future generations, including their children and grandchildren. That longer term thinking would mean focus on preventive measures in healthcare today, she adds. Nancy Hopkins, molecular biologist and geneticist at MIT, says she believes that the heavily male-dominated field of science would change if female stereotypic behavior of caring and helping were embraced. For example, this would lead to more focus on preventive healthcare. Hopkins, who has taught university students for close to 40 years, says she's never seen any differences in how women and men think about science when they are doing science. For example, when designing experiments, interpreting data, discussing science, or generating ideas for new experiments. Like, this is Yeah, I'm going to deal with this stuff. However, the stereotypes of acceptable and ideal behaviors for men and women are wildly different, she says. I believe that science in the world will look different when the female stereotypic behavior has equal status and power to that of men. Hopkins says she realized this recently while studying the causes of underfunding of cancer prevention research. Over the last 30 years, there's been spectacular progress in development of new drugs that are improving the treatment and extending lifespan for cancer patients. At the same time, Hopkins says epidemiologists believe that 70% of cancer deaths are preventable. Despite this knowledge, the amount of funding that goes to prevention research is a small fraction of what goes to developing treatments for advanced cancers. That's interesting. Because as I already stated, there are lots of women who are billionaires. Why aren't they? If women, let me finish this. We're almost done. Currently, Hopkins is on sabbatical trying to find out why. She hasn't found an answer yet, but recounts an emerging theme illustrated recently by a man, a scientist turned VC, venture capitalist, that she met at a cocktail party. He asked me what research I was interested in. Cancer prevention, I replied. Appearing to recoil, he almost shouted, "You can't make any money that way." That's interesting. He almost shouted. I guess he did say that. Try to imagine a woman saying that. The stereotypical female would not really be allowed to say such a thing, or ultimately perhaps even to think such a thing. That stereotype is a person who is obliged to see that prevention is applied to as many people as possible, as rapidly as possible, to save as many lives as possible, while we also continue to push for curing cancer. For Hopkins, it's when the male and female stereotypes fuse to make a new ideal that we will have a fantastic world. The ideal will be a combination of driving, bold, risk-taking world of stereotypical male and the caring, lift all boats kind of generous world of the stereotypical female. It ends with, I personally believe we are on our way, but it's a good thing women are long-term thinkers, because it's going to take a while until feminism is no longer a theory, but a reality for the betterment of all. Very interesting. So if we take that last statement about women being long-term thinkers, when they pushed for women empowerment, they didn't push the same for their sons. So that created a problem. So we actually ended up neglecting boys. If you're a long-term thinker, you understand that's a bad idea. They were also warned that the more women you push through to get greater education and give jobs, the less likely those women will be able to find a compatible mate, which means those women are going to be alone, lonely. They will spend a major part of their life undesirable and alone. A long-term thinker would have taken that into consideration and looked at what you were actually doing. Why would you neglect the boys and leave them to the side and say, oh, they'll be fine? That's not a long-term thinker. So really, it's a lie to say that women are long-term thinkers and big picture, because they have failed in that. They have pushed just for women. They're not pushing to have men and women work together. And they haven't looked at the long-term success of companies that were female only, or they just don't want to talk about it. Second part is, if women are so much into prevention and they for dealing with cancer and long-term thinkers, why aren't they finding, because there are tons of women who have invested a lot of money from their father or grandfather, or through divorce. Look at Jeff Bezos' wife and Elon Musk's wife. These women have billions of dollars. Why aren't these women funding them? Like, instead of going to men and say, men, you should think like women, just go to the women and let them fund it. Women are not even funding their ideas. A 100 years at a time. I think, who said it? You. It's going to take 1,000,000 years for them to build a Fortune 500. Um, so women are not long-term thinkers. If you neglect half of your society, which are boys and men, how are you going to have an effective society? And I'm beating a dead horse, but w- women depend on men to build these to create new industries and commercialize them. They depend on men to build these large companies that employ thousands and millions of people. Women are not doing that. So if you neglect boys, then what happens when men are not producing those results anymore? Women have had lots of time. But women say it takes more time. That will drag our society down.
It really has drug our society down. And, you know, and it's sad that these boys are being neglected, like you said, okay.
Exactly. And so once again, why are men who founded these companies obligated to put 50% of Fortune 500 companies to put women at the top position? Like, women just want to make a leapfrog. See, they don't understand so many companies failed to get that one Fortune 500. And what did men learn? See, women want to skip that. There's we call it failure, but there are lessons learned when you don't produce the outcome you want, and women are not learning those lessons. And women, now that this is when we start getting to biology. Women's biology don't have them take risks like men do. Women's biology don't let them be as confrontational as men do. So so they're not confronting the very things that sometimes need to be addressed or taking the risks. They're more like maintenance. They just keep status quo. There's a woman who's been a CEO of General Motors. You hear nothing about that company, like nothing. Right, right, Drew. They want to skip the failure and the lessons that you learn from that. Um, I mean, look at any person who does gymnastics. How many times do you fall? Look at those guys who do X sports, those cats who are on snowboards and skateboards, and they do these flips and they do all these crazy things. How many times did these guys fall? They failed. And what did they learn from that? I mean, if you look at dudes on snowboards back in the 80s compared to today, it's very different. What they learned, like, guys failed and they learned a lot from that. And women want to skip that. They just want the trophy. Like, imagine the X Games and those snowboarding dudes and skateboards, and you just give women the medal because they showed up, but they don't do all the things that men do. I mean, we would know that's ridiculous. That's like going back to the WNBA. How do women in the WNBA are actually asking to be paid the same as men in the NBA? Like, how is that? Like, how did they even come up with that as a possibility? Okay, so the article also, guys, talked about how if women ruled, there would be less wars. I'm going to share something with you that is all. See, like, this is my concern. Women will put things in the media and say it as though it's a fact. So let's get down to this, right? I want to shed light and put facts on this. They studied how often European rulers went to war between 1480 and 1913. Over 193 reigns, they found that states ruled by queens, guys, listen to this. States ruled by queens were 27% more likely to wage war than those ruled by kings. So the world wouldn't be more peaceful if we had more women running things. It's showing that women are more likely to wage war. Now I'm going to extrapolate a bit. War is great business. If your economy is failing, one way to hide a failing economy is go to war. What is that going to do? You're going to draft men, you're going to employ them. So any man that's unemployed, unemployable, you pull him out of the economy, put him in war, you shrink the population, so right? So that's less people who need jobs. The companies that make weapons and uniforms and all the services that the military need, ships, submarines, guns, all parachutes, bullets, all these things. You now employ significantly more people because you're sending people off to war. They're dying in uniforms. They need more bullets. You need bombs. You need airplanes. You need ships. All of this stuff then makes the economy mushroom. It increases significantly. So if the queens have a failing economy, one way to hide that is to declare war, and that generates great business. The economy looks like it's doing well, but it's a great way to hide the fact that you're failing your nation. States ruled by queens were 27% more likely to wage war than ruled by kings. Women will tell us that if they ruled, there'd be less wars. What did that article say? Well, if women ruled, they wouldn't want to send their children off to war. Well, they have no problem, and historically have never had a problem sending their sons off. If you told them they had to send their daughters off, it'd be a problem. And if you look at numbers from 1996 until 2016, over 6,800 men died from enemy fire in the military in the United States. During the same time, 96 to 2016, 46 women died from enemy fire. 46 for men, 6,800. If we flip those numbers and put women out there and had 6,000 women die and only 46 men, that would be a problem. What's going on, Big Exclusive? Good to see you here, man. Always good to see you. Right. And the Big Exclusive, if women are so much into preventive, she should be able to go to women with money. That's a big one. Is there already a cure, right? And it doesn't generate money. Um, that's a good one to throw in there, Ghost, for shoulders. I mean, if you're doing military, but if you're doing military and you want more weight on your military, the thing you're going to have to work really hard are your triceps. Your triceps and pull it when you're standing and you're pulling up like that with a barbell. That works your shoulders also a little bit, your traps too. But if you want to really build your shoulders, you need stronger triceps so that you can get more up on military. It'll increase your bench also. I mean, bench is going to affect your shoulders also. But those military, I do a good amount of pull-ups. That is effect, but you need strong triceps to do this. A and J, good to see you in the house. Thanks for joining. So, yeah, we're talking whether or not women really want equality.
But you know, kid, but if they if enough of them, like you said, had a thought down in the military, uh, like you said, wouldn't it that'll kill that whole equality mindset thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, they wouldn't want equality, right? They don't want women sitting in the front row of the military, not at all. But no problem for men to be out there. Like it's never a problem.
So
Never a
what's
problem.
driving this equality mindset, though, Ted? Help me, please explain it to me, if you would.
Well, that's a good question. You know, maybe the picture's much bigger than they're actually telling us. Maybe women are just being used as pawns for something that ends up being a
Some,
Venetian flytrap. It's even women are being used for something that's not even in their best interest.
cause I mean, it was almost like it correlates with all this conspiracy talk about this depopulation stuff. But
Yeah,
I don't see why the pawns. Why would they use these women as pawns like that when you know what I'm saying? With this whole equality stuff. But that was brought out the good topic that you had made for tonight.
yeah.
Did I get unmuted yet?
Oh yeah, you're here,
Hey,
Joe.
Mr. Joe.
Also
Hey
310.
guys.
310, you're in the house also. Go ahead, Joe. What's going on, man? Thanks for joining.
Sure. Good topic. I always like the stats that you bring, talking about how women are making these particular claims but can't live up to them. So it's good to know, it's good for men to know that so that we don't have to feel guilty about saying to women, hey, chickie, what do you bring to the table? You know? Oh, and by the way, I wasn't on your show last week about high valued women. Were any of the but I did download one of the videos that was talking about the A-Luxers, you know, one of those 15 traits.
Oh, right. Uh-huh.
When you, Kendricks, Reg, Chris, etc., when you guys get into conversations with women and you ask them what they bring to the table that they think, that they believe that men want, I'd like to know what have your experiences been? Because the women I talk to, they never mention the right attributes.
What?
That's interesting.
Men want money from women? What do women bring to men?
You're kind of muffled, Ted. Is it you or is it me?
That's what he's asking. You don't understand.
What's going on, guys? I had to step outside of my party.
What's going on?
What's up, G's? Hey, I want to answer the Joe's question. They have no answer. It's always deflection. I don't know what the other word was, but it's never really truly answered. Then they could give you some bullshit and you kind of accept that shit. So, and actually, once they do that kind of stuff, my wood gets soft, and once my wood gets soft, I'm done with the broad. I don't play that shit. Hey, when I answer when I ask, I want to hear the shit. You come with some bullshit. I already know what time it is. I kick their ass to the fucking curb. But I ask a goddamn direct question. I want to answer. You're supposed to give me some shit like I'm supposed to figure it out. But it's a word for that where they answer it. And it's so confusing and shit. You're supposed to try to figure out, but they never really answer it. So that's the game they play. I'm going back on me. Wait, y'all go ahead. Oh, hello, brothers.
What's going on, Reg? Thanks for joining.
So, Ted, you've had these conversations. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Joe.
You've had these conversations. Do they ever actually mention the attributes that you think are worthwhile in a high-valued woman? I mean, I like what she was saying in the video, but when we're looking for companionship, you know, some of those attributes that she was mentioning could be valuable.
What?
But,
right. And Joe, let me say one thing. The other thing, if you really listen to the video, if let's just take the case, you said, okay, I accept that. That's what women can bring. Most women don't even bring all these things that she named.
That's true.
So that
Yeah.
that creates an even bigger dilemma. It's like they don't even do that stuff.
Yeah. And those attributes were worthwhile too. About an independent woman, she's not jealous. She's generous. She's sensitive. You know, those are the kind of attributes that we want. But when it comes to a relationship in particular, you know, what do you, as a woman, what do you feel that you bring to the table that makes me proud to have you as my girlfriend? And I'm not talking trophy girl. I'm talking about I am so lucky that I can wake up to this particular person every morning because she has dot 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 dot. And I haven't gotten a good answer yet.
You know what some women will do? They'll all of a sudden they'll say, "I'm not a woman, so I can't answer." I've seen that.
I'm not a
In
woman.
that way,
I've seen that. I'm
in
telling
that
you.
way.
You ask a woman a direct question, what do women bring? And they'll say, "I'm not a woman, so I can't answer."
I'm not a
You see
woman.
that? You see her backwards this time. That'd be like me saying, "Hey, I'm President Santa Claus," when I know I ain't Santa Claus, Jimmy.
I'm not a woman. Oh my God. Hey, you know what? Talk about something which is similar to that, a little bit off the topic, about how people deflect. I got into a conversation about God. I'm an atheist. I'm agnostic type of atheist, and I was going through my logical progression of why, in my opinion, there is no God. Do you know that I was having this discussion with a pastor, and he was saying, and I was going, if God is all powerful, all knowing, all merciful, all good, you know, he interjects with, yeah, but God makes mistakes. And I'm going, wait a
Wow.
minute. The
Interesting.
God, that, you know, the all-powerful God. So I just wanted to say that I'm just using that as an example of how people can come up with, I'm not a woman, you know, and other types of retorts which just don't make sense to me.
What's going
Agreed.
on, Chris? Chris is in the house.
Hey, what's going on, Ted? Hey, Joe, I've asked, now I do believe, I'll be honest, I do believe, and I've asked similar questions too, and I get the same blank looks and, bullshit answers from past, so I just stop asking. The only thing I say is I applied Pascal's wager to it, you know what I mean? Like, it's better to believe and be wrong, right? Than it is to not believe and be wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Only thing is that it doesn't matter if we believe or not. If there's a God, it doesn't matter if we believe or not. He's going to administer what he believes. Right. So I understand what Pascal's talking about.
Right.
But one of these days on another show, not Ted's, because Ted's show is relationships.
That'd be a good topic for another show. But as far as this, you asked a question earlier that I thought was absolutely hilarious. Like, what do these women say when we ask them the question? You know, what does a high value woman? They don't. They just deflect. If you have ever tried to have an intelligent conversation with a black woman, you will be better off pulling your hammer out of the drawer right now and just beating yourself in the head. And it would actually be less painful if you did that. Because they don't have the intelligence to answer the questions. So the only tool that they have is to take away your voice. So if you try to ask them a question, something like that on YouTube or on Facebook, whatever, they're going to get your page blocked, get you kicked off, or whatever. Yeah. That is the only thing they have, because they cannot answer any question intelligently. And if they do, the few that do will admit that you are right and side with you. But
so that's a good beginning.
The funny thing is they still stay on code with the rest of the women. Even though they don't admit that you're right. But they'll still stay on code with the other women. Because they know because to them, there's safety in numbers.
I was about to say the herd mentality. Yeah.
Right. The high mentality is what dooms them all.
So
It's amazing, Chris, isn't it? Oh man, you get in discussions with women, black women, white women.
I at the risk of sounding like the ultimate misogynist, I thank God every day I was born with a dick.
I don't know, man. You know what? I've had discussions with people about hypotheticals, and a friend of mine said he'd like to come back as a woman, and I said the same thing. I said, I know what I come back as: 5'7", nice, wavy, long hair, 36C. Because I would have my world. That world would be my oyster. Because especially in America.
So you'd abuse it. You'd abuse it, is what you're saying.
No, I wouldn't abuse it. If I were a woman, I'd make my man happy. I would appreciate all the doors open for me, but the doors would be open for me instead of my doing it, instead of my believing that there's a conspiracy against men, which there is. If I came back as a woman who appreciated men, I would be the most popular woman around for men, and I'd be considered the target of all the envy of the other women, because they'd be wondering how come this girl, who is as beautiful as I am, seems to be getting all the attention from the guys without even blinking an eye.
Well, Joe,
because just imagine if girls did not think of being in competition with us and being afraid of men and thinking of us as the patriarchal society. Think about how we would actually fit together. Yeah, Ted.
I was going to make a joke and say, well, what if you were a woman except you pretty much had the same face you have now?
Well, the face I got now. The same face? No, but yeah.
She'd be no different than them. All you had to do was put on a bunch of makeup, just like they do.
That's all. That's right. And I would look even better with the makeup on. So yeah, all I need is some makeup. Yeah.
You don't want to talk to him?
I don't, for the life of me, I don't understand how you can read those articles and either A, not die of laughter, or B, just get so pissed off that you don't punch a hole in every wall in your apartment. Like you've either got a really good weed man or some really good meds from your doctor. I don't know which one it is, but I want some.
No, it's not.
Right, I need some of that too, Chris.
Right, because after reading all the confirmation about how women are so overrated, you got to go, wait a minute. Why am I even wasting my time with this fucking broad if she doesn't even know what she's going to bring to the table for me? Oh, fuck.
That's a nice coat. Well,
exactly. I used to think, you did say something profound, okay? You said you don't know if the powers of be are empowering them because they know something we don't. Well, I will say that I do think there is a concerted effort to empower them just for population control. Because if you look at it, the mortality rates from birth are tremendously low now. As a result, we're running into food shortages and all kinds of stuff. So I do think that it is a way to control the population by empowering them. Because
that's not true.
Socialism and egalitarianism are two death sentences.
Yeah,
don't forget
that's not too far off.
Don't forget
because did you guys hear the conversation that I think one of the Rockefellers said to Aaron Russo years ago? He was a director before he died to try to get Aaron Russo into the New World Order. And the Rockefeller guy, I forget his first name. He wasn't one of the more famous ones. He was one of the cousins with the Rockefeller name. He said that they funded the feminist movement so that women could pay taxes. And of course, their agenda with women, of course, as Chris is saying, is probably a lot more, far more reaching and long-term planning. But yeah, there is a concerted effort to bring down America, and part of it is to implode it and to make women. Like, have guys ever taken a look at gender studies? Holy shit, what they teach about men subliminally being the enemy. Oh yeah.
Well, actually,
If you listen to a gender studies class, all men are just a bunch of what all we think about all day long is sexually assaulting women.
yep.
That's it. That's our only thought. That's all we want to do all day long. Just go around knocking women over the head and dragging them in the alley. We don't want to do anything productive.
And see, that's my problem, Chris. Don't they know that's coming from a sexual and sadist type of mindset? Only sexual sadists do stupid stuff like this.
Well, so that
Well, they're intentional.
hold up, guys, hold up. So I read an article. The article was what society would look like if women were equal to men, and the woman who wrote it, Karen Camp. And what's going on, in view? I see you in the house. Good to have you here. So what she said was that women were long-term thinkers and they were more caring about society. And if you put more women in the workforce, society would be better, the GDP would grow. Well, if she's a long-term thinker, one of the things she failed to address, because she said, well, with more women in the workforce, it would be less women on public assistance. But what she didn't address is, what do you do with all the men you displace? Like, what do? You have men build homeless shelters for themselves? What do you think is going to happen with crime? Women. So do women want equality where they actually marry unemployed men? Because men will marry an unemployed woman and never think anything of it. You want to talk about how we're not equal. A man could marry a woman who's unemployed and not, there's nothing negative he won't have a negative thought about her. What women marrying unemployed men, just, it doesn't work for women. They look down on men who are not employed, and they're looking for a guy who makes more than them so that they can put their money away and let the guy pay all the bills. So an unemployed man doesn't work. But the real big point is, if you continue to put more and more women in the workforce, what do you do with the men? Because there are only so many jobs. I mean, I looked up, there are 108 million female adults in the US and slightly over 100 million men. So that's 208 million people. And you have what, 100 million, 150 million jobs. You can't get all those people into the amount of jobs that exist. You just don't. So are women thinking, what happens? What happens when you displace men? And men also understand capital and how men build communities. They create jobs that employ many people. Women go shopping and they have an online job, or they basically have a career that's a job, that's a career, and it's not a company. And women don't really understand the responsibility that comes with capital, how men get capital and they want to have a wife and children, take care of them, educate them, and women get money and say, I don't need a man. So how do we build a society that continues to discard men and make them homeless? They're going to become criminals, which means women are going to be threatened more. They're going to be raped. They're going to be robbed. And men are going to be drug addicts. And that's not even counting the women who do not handle the stress of many of these jobs, and they end up alcoholics and drug addicts. So women are not the long-term thinkers they believe they are.
No, they're not. As a matter of fact, a lot of them, they go into the military, right? And being in the military is very stressful, right? PTSD is a real thing, particularly with men when you get out for various reasons. But the number one thing is it's very psychologically taxing on your body, on you physically and physically taxing on you. So, but when you get out, as men, some men take a 6-month break, some men just bounce right back into another job or whatever. But there are a lot of women who get out of the military and they just don't want to go back to work. They just, if they're married, they don't go back to work. A lot of them don't go back to work. They just be stay-at-home wives, and it's because they can't, they've experienced working for so long. They think that the 20 years that they did in the military means that they never have to work again. I'm retired, I'm retired, and what they don't understand is like, no, you created yourself a supplemental income, but you still have to work because military retirement isn't that much. But a lot of them don't want to go back to work because they know what it's like working. They know they're not built for it.
Yep. I want to share another.
And so, yeah, that's why that article was funny when they said that if women were more women in the military, there'd be less wars and.
Well,
yeah, right.
I read, with women as leaders, we have more wars. Women as leaders, there are more wars. That's what the research shows.
Right. More wars, and we'll be taking more losses, particularly if we put them on the front line.
Exactly.
Well, as you said one time before,
we'll be like Turkey. Turkey's been invaded by just about every country except us.
What were you going to say, Joe?
Well, as Chris said some time back, I mean, the women can't fire the ammunition and the guns and the firearms in a combat situation that men can. So they would have to have specially created armaments just for them, which could happen. But at the same time, women can't handle the stress of being home in America, working. They're not going to handle the stress of being in a real fire zone. It's one thing to be a medic. It's one thing to be behind the lines, but to have a whole platoon of females at the front.
Exactly. And how many are in a platoon? Like 1,000? What's the number?
Yeah, I have no idea, but yeah, it's quite a bit. I have a female coworker, and she's an engineer. So she texted me. She's like, "Hey, I'm going to be in Oak City in January." She's like, "I want to go to the gun range." She's like, "Do you have any guns?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got plenty." She's like, "Could we go to the gun range?" She's like, "Because I want to shoot a gun." Last time I went, I got, according to her, she got anxiety and she wasn't able to, finish her session at the gun range or whatever. I was like, "Yeah, no problem." She's like, "Do you have something smaller than a 9mm?" I'm like, "I do, but what? But what's wrong with a 9mm? 9mm doesn't kick that much. 9mm is a pretty small, fast moving round. It doesn't kick that much." She's like, "No, that's what I shot the last time, and it made me nervous. The loud bang." And I'm like, a 9mm really doesn't make a loud bang.
Wow.
You think a 9mm makes a loud bang? Wait till you hear an AR-15 go off.
Right.
Right.
Wow.
So because he can't handle the 9mm, now I'm having to bring my 22. Which clap your hands. That's louder than the 22.
So there's Joe. I'm going to read an article by Joe Herbert. He's professor emeritus of neuroscience at the University. Emeritus, right? At the University of Cambridge. This is from 2016. Let's see. Am I sharing this? Just want to make sure it's being shared. Yep. I know you guys can't see it, but for those who are on YouTube watching, it's published in The Conversation. The link is in the description of YouTube. And the title of the article is, "Would Gender Differences Exist If We Treated All People the Same from Birth?" And not too long. Let's see if I can run through this. All societies divided people into male and female. There is a biological truth behind this: different sex chromosomes, XY, XS. But could many gender differences be down to social conditioning? If we treated girls and boys the same from birth, what would the consequences be? More equal opportunities, or a complete breakdown of the concept of masculinity and femininity? These ideas partly depend on what we understand by gender identity. Gender identity is not a simple concept. It is usually defined as whether someone thinks of themselves as male or female, though it's more than that. Even this is not as simple. Binary division between all human beings. However, we do know that the hormones the brain is exposed to in early pregnancy have powerful effects on gender identity. For example, there's a condition called androgen insensitivity syndrome. Girls with this condition are born looking just like other girls. Only at puberty do things start to change. This is because they are actually genetic males. They have the male XY chromosomes. They also have testes hidden in their abdomen, but no uterus or ovaries. Interesting. I never heard of this. The condition is caused by a genetic insensitivity to the hormone testosterone, so that while these girls secrete male type levels of testosterone, it doesn't have any effect on their brain or anywhere else. The important point is that their gender identity is female. Does that mean that testosterone is ultimately what makes someone masculine? The experimental evidence suggests as much. Giving little female rats testosterone during early life makes them very male-like, and the opposite occurs if little males are castrated. Testosterone seems to be important, but is it the whole story? Is the fact that individuals with androgenous. No, it says androgynous. No, it's not what it says. Androgen.
Oh, it's androgen?
Androgen. Okay. Androgen insensitivity syndrome look like women responsible for others treating them as female, thus influencing how they see themselves. Oh, wait, give me a second. I don't know. They've got a picture with all these women. I don't know. It's because these women suffer that syndrome. Oh, yes, they have women with AIS and related DSD conditions who want their condition to be represented by. So that it's a bunch of women, maybe 15 of them, all look female, but they suffer this. They have breasts, they no facial hair, they have different color hair, they're different ages, young, old. In the 1960s, John Money, a prominent psychologist, convinced himself that gender identity was independent of early hormones. Put simply, if a parent thought their baby was a boy and treated him as such, then he developed a male gender identity and vice versa. This idea was put to the test. After a surgical accident, a 1-year-old boy was castrated and given a vagina. He was dressed as a girl and given a female name, but it failed. Eventually, the girl reverted to being a boy. You might think that was the end of the parent theory of gender identity. But a second case, which started when the baby was 2 months, succeeded. The boy grew up as a girl and accepted her gender identity, though she was bisexual. Interesting. So why the different results? Note that single case reports are unreliable as evidence, but it seems likely that exposure of the brain to testosterone during development does influence various aspects of sexuality, including gender identity. We also know that the brain in early life is very susceptible to external events, so both testosterone and parental behavior can influence gender identity. Beyond hormones is the next section of the article. But gender identity is also how a person expresses themselves in that society. In a society that represses expression of sexuality, this will alter how women and men see themselves. The important point here is that gender identity is both biological and social, but none of those factors results in a simple binary division. So, could we abolish differences in gender by altering upbringing? Schemes exist to minimize gender stereotypical play behavior. For example, some Scandinavian nurseries. While this may have some impact, research has nonetheless shown that little boys still prefer to play with trains and little girls with dolls. Giving such toys to society that have never seen them in real life has the same result. Now that's interesting. Like that line, giving those toys, trains and dolls, giving such toys to societies that have never seen them in real life has the same result. Interesting. There are, of course, established gender differences in muscular strength and height that are not controversial. And yet, there are women who are stronger or taller than some men. In other words, there is an overlap between the sexes despite the sex difference. Accepting that there may be gender differences in brain function has proved much more controversial. Many studies have shown, for example, that males are better at visuospatial tasks and females are better at languages and empathy. These differences are small and overlap, so sometimes they are not observed, but we should not discount their influence. There are also well-established but very small gender differences in the brain, such as men having a larger hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is responsible for initiating eating, drinking, sex, and other behaviors essential for survival. Relating these differences to those in behavior has not so far been very successful. This may reflect our ignorance of how the brain actually works. Now, that's an interesting, right? So we may have limited tools and knowledge of the brain to understand. And just as a side, you guys have seen that I showed articles where it says that women suffer from anxiety, depression, insomnia, eating disorders more than men because of the way their brain functions. This article goes on society's responsibility. So it's almost over. There are those who decry the small differences that have been recorded or even consider that they do not exist. But why should we want to abolish them? It seems to me that these both reflect identity and contribute to it. It's no secret that sex differences have been used as an excuse for gender inequality, but that just means we need to redress that inequality, not deny that gender differences exist. It's opportunity that is crucial. If this were equal, would we see an even distribution of males and females across all occupations and activities? Not in my opinion. If a job requires physical strength, then it is likely that men will predominate. Also, in a branch of medicine dealing with brain disorders, about 50% of psychiatrists are female, but only about 15 to 20% are neurologists and a mere 5% neurosurgeons. That's interesting. Even though the opportunity is there, there's nothing to stop women from taking on those professions. That's very interesting. Is this gender-related prejudice or individual preference? Should we insist on a gender distribution? Of course not, provided the choice was unfettered. It may be that males are attracted by more technical aspects of medicine and females by more person-oriented specialties for reasons that are not just due to upbringing or expectations, but genuine differences in the brain. But of course, social norms also contribute to which professions we choose. So we have to make an effort to ensure that women are not hindered from a free choice of profession by societal expectations, burdens of child rearing, or selective education. So that's interesting. Women have children, and so are we going to ignore that? I guess you could always have women who are designated, like they're raised to just be surrogates so that other women could focus on their career. That would be an interesting society. And the article goes on, but ultimately an unequal gender distribution is no longer controversial if opportunities are the same for all. If gender differences then remain, we should accept them. That's really the point. We need to accept them. Thankfully, we now see an increase in number of women as distinguished scientists, CEOs of major companies, and world leaders. But the problem is, this is me saying this, we don't find women starting these major companies and these science organizations doing these experiments. These women still work in companies made by men. The last couple of lines are, "We don't even bat an eye when a woman plays King Lear, that most masculine of roles. Gender identities are changing, but let us not muddle the essential distinction between similarity and equality." That's it. Yeah. So I think it's dangerous to try and force women to be more like men. There are consequences, and we are ignoring them. I think that's abuse. It should be considered a crime against humanity to try and force a girl to be more like a boy. What do you guys think
Well,
of that
yeah,
article?
but the problem is, the problem is you'll have them telling you, and you try to protect them and say, look, you just can't do this. It's not you. You'll have them telling you and fighting you to prove that they can and failing while they're doing it, like they are now. Look at the
Exactly.
rates of alcoholism, drug use, and depression that's gone up
Exactly.
in women over the last 100 years.
Exactly. Yep.
And that's simply because they're trying to do something that they weren't born to do. But when you can't even tell them, even though you have facts to show them how it's harming them, right? You try to put up a fact and show them, and they'll just say that's your opinion. Wait a minute, what? No, this is a fact. I'm showing you a fact, the black and white of it. No, that's your opinion. So anytime they don't like something, they just say it's your opinion,
So, but here,
even though it's not the fact.
they will go into silence, because here's what I had this conversation. Uh, must have been I don't know, yesterday, yes, Saturday, and I said to the women, if you're oppressed and you think men are not giving you opportunities, why don't you stop begging men for jobs and just build female only corporations, build cars, have consulting firms, manufacturing companies, drill oil, mine for copper and gold, all that stuff. Do it all, and do it with women only. And that way you can show us how paternity leave works, paying all women high salaries, that you don't have this massive toxic masculinity culture that corporate America has. Show us how it's done, and you can compete in a global marketplace with female only companies. And there are tons of women out there who have hundreds of millions of dollars or billions, that they either got through divorce or inherited from their father and grandfather. Why aren't you women just doing that? And no one responded, like zero response to that. It's
All right, you see how simple you just made that sound to you? It's simple is, simple does. You know what I mean? And that's how most dudes think. We think of simplicity.
but there's nothing stopping them from doing that. Or they can just start. And here's what they kept saying. Well, it's just taking a long time. I'm like, okay, so you want to brag about Madam C.J. Walker back in the 1800s, and she was a millionaire, and she owned business, property, she did all this stuff. So that means for more than 100 years, women have had businesses, and massive amounts of money. They've had opportunities, and you've done nothing with it over 100 years. Google is not a 100-year-old company. Facebook is not even 20 years old. So how is it that women take a long time to build these companies and men build them in no time? So are we saying this is a matter of competence, that we don't have the same competence? Is it drive? Like, what is it that makes men jump up, get these things done, and we're in business and creating thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of jobs in one company, and you women can't do it in more than 100 years? Where's the oppression? So
I had those conversations too, and I just get the blank look.
right.
I tell them, they say they say that it's because men are oppressing them. I say, but then when you argue with them, like, no, you have more freedom than men do now. Women, there are more women on college campuses now than there are men, and you have the opportunity to choose what you want to go to school for. And when given a choice, you still pick service-oriented careers.
Exactly.
You still choose to be nurses
Yep.
or something where you provide a service to somebody. You're not going to create something, you don't want to learn how to build something because it's not in your biology. There's nobody stopping you from doing it but yourself.
Well, and so there's another
They
aspect.
bring up
Go ahead. Go ahead.
they, they love bringing up the fact that they all insist that women created the first computer and the internet, right? Okay, cool.
Wait. They created
I
the
know it's a
first
lie,
what?
but I'm going to give
No. The first what?
I know it's a lie, but I'm going to give them that caveat.
No, but I didn't hear
What
you,
have you
Chris.
done
No,
since
the first what?
Oh, the internet and computers.
Computers.
They love to say women created both of those.
Okay,
So
I'll
I
let you
said
finish.
it's a lie,
Wow,
but I'm
really?
not going to go down that road. But let's just say, what have you done since then? Why is it that you couldn't take that same knowledge and create the first cell phone
So
or any cell phone since then?
Alan, during World War II, Alan Turing created. They actually, the computers were not called computers in the beginning. Do you know what they were called?
No.
The Turing machine, named after the guy who first created it. What they did during World War II, the British, the Germans were bombing the hell out of their ships at ocean. They were having these attacks. So they hired a bunch of mathematicians, maybe some physicists, or definitely mathematicians. Let's say it was 5 or 6 men, and actually one was a woman. And Turing, I may be saying his last name incorrectly. Let me just make sure. Alan Turing, 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 Alan Turing. He was the smartest of these guys. He was like this. He was this genius, eccentric genius. So Turing came up with this idea and asked for a massive budget to build a machine that could actually calculate an enormous amount of algorithms and figure out where the Germans would attack next. And it worked. It actually worked. He built a machine, and that was the first computer. Turing machine is what it was called. So women didn't build it. It was built to calculate algorithms to protect the British in their at sea from being bombed by the Germans. And it literally accurately predict based on pattern recognition of what the German activity was. And they actually were able, there were cases where they knew where the Germans would attack next and they let them do it. And then there were other times where they shut the Germans down. So it was extremely effective. So I'm not sure how women created computers with that at all.
Right. But like I said, it's evidentiary that they didn't because they haven't created anything with technology since then. Not even in the last 10 years.
Right. And they never created an industry. So if things were equal, if we really said, look, it's cool, you ladies are smart, you can do it all, we're now equal. You've had training wheels for decades working in companies for men. You're now on your own. We're firing all of you and you can go do your own thing. We're ready. Whether you want to put on the gloves or whatever you want to do, go create your own thing. Manufacturing facilities, you need to acquire natural resources and do it. And it would be, that's what equality would look like. You can, if you don't want, and let's talk about abortion too, equality in that. But if you say it's unfair and controlling for a man to tell you what to do with your body, why do you think you have a right to tell a man what to do with his company and who he should hire? So this is now equality. And if we're going to have equality with pregnancy, well, that seed growing in your body, the woman literally is doing nothing. Because if you guys remember, a few years ago, there was a woman in a coma in a mental institution. And one of the guys, I guess you call them orderlies, he had sex with her while she was in a coma. He impregnated her while she was in a coma, and for the 9 months that she hosted that child in her body, the child came out and she was still in a coma. She didn't wake up during that 9 months. So the woman is literally just a host, like putting a seed in the soil. You don't need her to do anything. You just make sure she's fed. And it's literally the sperm that creates the split, this placenta and all the fluid. The sperm does all the work, not the egg. So
I remember this story.
well, hold on. This was the last thing I was getting at. So because it's the sperm doing all the work, when it comes to abortion laws, if a woman wants an abortion, it should be mandatory that the man sign, like a check that needs 2 signatures. Some companies have that. You can't get an abortion without the man's permission. He has equal rights. And if you want to have the baby, the man should have the equal right to say, I don't want it. He should be able to sue you and say, I don't want my seed to be born. But women don't want that. Yet they want to tell men what to do with their companies. That's amazing. Sorry, guys. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I was just saying, I remember that story a few years back, like you said, and I believe if my memory serves me correct, didn't the family of that lady try to sue that institution?
I stopped
because
following
of that dude tried to rape her or something.
Yeah, they probably had grounds for a suit because that's negligence. Yeah. I mean, I would think even if you're not in a coma and a doctor comes in or a nurse, some guy sues you who works for the hospital, you're probably going to sue the hospital. So, yeah.
It's another interesting thing is they tell us that we can't tell them, as far as abortion goes and childbirth goes, that we don't have the right to tell them what to do with their bodies, right? But somehow they think they can force all men to get a vasectomy.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah, that's funny. Right, because they don't want to protect their womb. They want men to be responsible for their bodies. So here's what I asked the women yesterday, because they started down the path of, well, men need to make sure they don't get a woman pregnant. So I asked the women, would you allow a man to stuff food in your mouth that you don't want? They're like, of course not. I said, so you make sure your stomach doesn't get food that you don't want. Why don't you think you're responsible for your uterus in the same way? And there was silence. So if a man is if a man is not if a man is not responsible for what goes into your stomach, and you can actually stop him from putting something in your stomach, why don't you do the same for your uterus?
Good point.
Dead silence. Like, next subject. Can we talk about something else now?
Well, that's like Chris said, that accountability thing. I don't think some of them want the same accountability of a man to it. I just don't believe it.
But see, men can start doing that, and when they attempt to change the subject, you don't let them. I mean, yesterday I asked the question, and the woman tried to not answer it, and I told her, if you're not going to answer it, you go on mute and be quiet. And she went on mute. I had zero tolerance for the games, and that's what men need to do. It's like I asked you a question.
Yeah, I agree.
I asked you a question. It's a simple question, and if you're not going to answer it, just tell me you're not going to answer it. Then I'll decide what to do with you. And they can say that's controlling and misogynistic. Well, I'm a man and I have a right to do that. And if you ladies don't like it, there's always an island you can pack up and move to. There's nothing stopping you. And if you don't have the guts to do that, then start building your own companies. That's not a big deal. And they're like, well, we are. No, You're not building Fortune 500s. You've had more than enough time. For decades, women have been saying it takes time. It takes time. They'll be using that. They've been using that for more than 100 years. And too many men fall for that. Men are like, yeah, man, they've been oppressed. Oppressed where? Where?
They've been protected more than children.
Exactly. Exactly.
Children who actually can't defend themselves, can't fend for themselves. Meanwhile, these women have the ability to, somewhat. They don't piss for a job at it, but they have the ability to do it somewhat. They have the more intelligence to do it than a child. But for some odd reason, society protects them more than children, to the point where they can abuse children and not even go to jail for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. So they technically are more protected than the children, because children are vulnerable to a lot of women, like a lot.
They are more protected than bald eagles. I'm serious, but I mean, pretty soon our national bird is gonna be a woman wearing a feather suit.
So I want to play a video. I don't know if this is going to be a comedy. I came up with this topic kind of late in the day. Yeah, let's see if we do another screen share here. There was a woman in Instagram debating with me about this topic of, do women want equality? And when I said women should build companies, she started saying, well, that's just a sign of choice. I was like, no, it's not. Women don't have a choice because they can't build these companies. There's no choice in that. And when they try, they fail. And they end up working for a man's company. So that's not choice. So let's see if this woman makes jokes. This is a video called "If Women Ruled the World."
So, Sarah, you've been with us for 5 years now.
That's correct.
Headed up some impressive initiatives. Read that later. So, I asked you in my office here today to talk a little bit about your future.
Awesome. I think I know where this is going.
Specifically, how that relates to Steve.
Steve, the intern?
Yeah, Steve, the best damn intern ever. It actually reminds me of me when I was a kid. Anyways, we just hired him as a junior exec, and I would like you to show him the ropes.
Is there a reason I wasn't considered for the open position?
No, Sarah, you're great where you are. And if you were serious about wanting a promotion in the next couple of years, which, for the record, I did not know that you wanted, I feel like you'd want to take the initiative a little more.
Okay. I was like, no freaking way, dude. Sports. All right. All right. Ooh, something shiny. What? You all had dicks. Like 2 seconds ago.
Hey, I really love your shoes.
Oh my god, thank you. I got them on sale. I saw them online at Nordstrom's and it was like full price. So, it sounds like you had a very lucid hallucination that you were living in a world run mostly by men. Whew. You need to shake this. This is awesome!
Nice work, Steve.
Ow! Is this something that we do now?
Only when your intern's as hot as Steve.
I want to fuck you, Steve. That's the basic premise of what everyone's saying. Don't be a creep.
So, get ready to meet the sexy new face of our ad campaign.
Ooh, yeah.
Wow.
You look great.
Do my laundry on those abs, Bill.
I feel kind of violated.
Bill, learn to take a compliment, for fuck's sake. So, Sarah, you've been with us for 5 years. Yes, that's correct. And I am sure I have loved every single one of those 5 years working for you, lady boss. Boss lady. Yeah. Listen, Sarah, you do good work. And I would love to give you a promotion. Yes, thank you. I will not let you down. But you're just not there yet. What? You remind me a lot of myself when I first started. And I wouldn't have gotten here without getting that extra push every step of the way to try harder and work smarter than everyone around me.
Hey, you okay? You've been acting kind of weird all day.
No, I'm fine.
Is it that freak lightning strike that changed all the men into women?
You know about that?
Good boy.
I thought that if every woman didn't have to compete against one another in order for like that one little spot at the man's table, that things would be so much better. But it's like we just literally traded places, and now we're the dicks.
No. Waving mascara on my eyelashes doesn't actually make them any thicker. I've had to invest months in oil treatments and eyelid massages so they get thicker from the root up.
Why don't you just put on false eyelashes?
I'm just saying, waving a magic wand just to change men into women is just a cosmetic difference. Real change happens when we start a dialogue about how gender imbalance issues affect us all.
That was deep.
Hey, you might need these later.
I'm not bleeding. But thank you.
All right, I hadn't seen that one. Yeah, hey, Myth Twist, what's going on? Good to see you, man. I know she's a comedian. That's part of the reason I showed it. I wondered what she'd say. Here's another one I want to play. This video is, hey ladies, ready to get drafted by the military? So let's see what the ladies. let's see what and it looks like the man on the street is randomly going to stop women and ask them about getting drafted in the military. So let's see how this turns out.
Hey everybody, I'm Dan Joseph with MRC TV. Recently, the Department of Defense decided to open up the roles that women could play in combat. We came to a college campus and we wanted to ask people what they thought, whether this was about equality or whether it could have a negative impact on women in service. Are you in favor of that?
Absolutely. I'm all
Okay.
for women empowerment. I think that that is good. I think that if women want to serve in combat, they should be able to.
If the nation's willing to throw their daughters on the front lines, I don't know what on earth they could be protecting in their country that they're fighting for.
I think it's great that women are given equal opportunities now, but at the same time, if you're a mother, I wouldn't want a woman to be on the front line. But if you weren't a mother, I say, yeah, that's fine.
I feel
That's interesting. So if you're a father, you can be shot in the head in the military and be like, oh, well, but if you're a mother, well, we can't lose that. That's very interesting. So Chris, you talk about this, right?
Even though studies have proven that if single mother versus single father, the child turns out a much better product than raised by a single father.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's just go and let that father get shot in the head,
Right. And as you've said that a lot of women, to avoid going to being deployed, they just get pregnant and say, oops, guess I can't go. And that's how I guess women would get out of it.
Surprised how often it happens.
90 seconds.
To the day.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. Not even a little bit.
Women are kind of not discriminated against, but really don't have some equal opportunities.
It's been shown that a small woman can kill a large man. There's different techniques for doing it, and size isn't the only thing that matters.
And it's fun to watch too. You're a really small girl like carrying a giant guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same opportunity.
That's right.
It's their own choice. They should be able to do anything. There should be no restrictions between men and women. It doesn't really matter what the subject matter is. We're all the same.
My name is Owen.
You are
Interesting. So this was done in 2013. But interesting how men are being turned into feminists. So 2013, Kendrick, you were around the same age as these people. So this is what they flooded you with.
Dress like an elf, kind of. Is that intentional?
The name did not come from an obsession with elves, but I had that too. I feel like they might as well, because everybody always fights for equality gender-wise, and I mean, why not? They train for it. They're just as skilled as men.
I think there needs to be a standard set that if anyone, like, if they can achieve it, then they can go, but they shouldn't have lower standards for women to be in combat. It should be the same for men and women. So
Exactly
if
the
they meet
same, no curve.
Correct.
So all men are supposed to sign up for selective services. Should women have to do the same?
If yeah, I mean, I think
so.
If we're going to institute a draft, then yeah, eligibility should apply to both sexes.
Fair is fair.
Of course, that wouldn't be ideal, being a girl myself, but, you know, if you want equality, then you're going to get it.
We protect our country by doing things like raising our children.
Even way back in history, like the male's role to go out to war, and then we leave the women and children here to, you know, stay in the civilian life.
I guess. It's their choice.
It's well, no, they would have to force you to sign up for the draft.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't think some women are capable of it.
There are probably a lot of men who aren't capable of it.
I think more of women though.
Absolutely. If
You
you have
think so?
men being drafted, it's only fair for women to be drafted. I mean, it's equality all across. You can't just pick and choose.
Tradition is that the men go off to war and the women stay home and watch I guess, everything.
The women who actually go into the army are the women who want to fight. They know what they're getting into, but to have to sign up for like the draft or whatever, like other women may not want to have the same kind of dedication to it.
That's true, but I mean, equality. You know, if I have to do it, you should have to do it too.
Yeah,
right?
basically, yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm too old to be drafted right now, so.
Yeah, I got.
It's all up to you, buddy. Oh, that was great. That was really impressive, man.
So cool.
As an elf, what kind of weaponry do you favor in terms of your own military tactics? Archery?
Well,
Magic?
I can shoot a bow. I'm learning how to fence and use 22, a little bit of boxing.
Bow, 22, fencing, and box. I'm not gonna f you. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just not. I think you maybe would be great in the military. They would.
All right. Yeah, Myth Twist. They were struggling. They were not gung ho. Yes, sign me up. I want to go.
Yeah, I had a friend who, her daughter was talking about going into the army when she graduated high school. So I told her, I said, you know, in the army, they have to do this thing called a fitness test. And every 6 months, they have to run a timed 3-mile run. And depending on your age depends on your time. So the younger you are, the less time you have. I said, I don't know what it is for women, but I know the boys, it's around, somewhere like around an 8-minute mile, right? Or like this 3-mile run. And I said, I'm pretty sure it's kind of close for the women too. I said, you've never played any sports. You can't even run around this block one time. How are you going to run 3 miles? And you're not practicing right now. Right now, all you're doing is smoking weed and, you know, and running around, you know, chasing all these boys because, you know, you're almost 18 years old and nobody can really stop you because you have, you know, more free time and more freedom now. So nobody's really going to put in the effort to stop you. You know, your mom didn't do it before. She's not going to do it now. So how are you going to prepare yourself to do all the push-ups, sit-ups, and run 3 miles that you need to in the military? No answer. Guess what she didn't do, Ted?
Go in the military.
She didn't join the military.
Right.
She's done nothing with her life since. Absolutely nothing.
Interesting. Wow. Wow. Yeah, I think too many people use the military as sort of a crutch. Well, I don't know what to do. I'll just join. And maybe I'll have an opportunity. Hopefully, there's no war.
For some people, it does work out great. You know, some people, it actually does give them that direction in life that they need to
to do what they need to do to become a better person, a more productive person. You know, it puts them on a path that they didn't know how to get to on their own. You know what I mean?
Well, discipline, right?
Case in point, I'm one of them, right?
Go ahead.
But then there are some people who do use it, thinking that it's going to somehow put them on that path, and they never get there. You know, so when they get out, and a lot of them go back to the same job. Go back to the same retail job or jobs that I know one guy who was he was a fast food cook before he went into the military, right? So what did he do? What did he choose as a career in the military? A cook. So when he got out of the military, he's pissed off. I see him complain on Facebook like every day how bad his life sucked because he had to go back to Red Lobster, right back to the same fucking grill he left 6 years earlier. And it's like, well, what did you expect? You didn't set yourself up for any success in the military. It wasn't going to magically happen for you, you know. Sure, you could have. You started off as a cook, but you didn't have to stay a cook. The military is the one place where you don't have to compete to move up. You can just simply say, "Hey, I want to try this out," and they'll give you the opportunity to go try another job. And if you fail at that, then they'll send you back to your original job, but they'll give you the opportunity.
Right. Yep. You can develop completely new skills. So absolutely. And there's education. So.
Right. And he didn't take advantage of any of that. And so he ended up back at the same grill. And I mean, he's damn near suicidal. Last time I checked, I'm so glad I don't have a Facebook anymore. So I have to hear a bitch every day. But yeah.
Hey, Joe, are you still there?
I am still here.
All right.
Yeah.
You made it back.
I found this interesting. I was in the military. I was in the Air Force, and I never knew the other opportunity where you could get out of your assigned duty and volunteer for another duty. I never heard of that until now.
Yeah, and well, in the Navy, you could do it easily. You could just say, I want to use a reclass. You know, a lot of people go in undesignated. You know, and so they work undesignated for 6 months, and then they go around the ship trying different different jobs, and so they find one that they want to go to, and then bam, they go to that department, they start working there, and then eventually they get sent off to school for that career. I'm pretty sure the Air Force Army has some sort of program like that too now. Maybe not back then.
No. You know what they did to me? I wanted to go in as I came in straight out of high school, and I wanted to fly a plane, right? So the fucking recruiter tells me, yeah, well, that program still exists. So I sign up, I get recruited, and I go through basic. Bam, that program ended years ago. The recruiter lied to me just to get me into the fucking Air Force.
Wow.
Can you believe that shit?
Wow.
Fuck.
Sorry to hear that.
On the flip side of that, I know a lot of people who at one point the Navy became overmanned after 9/11. After a couple of years of war, the Navy was overmanned. So they start giving people early out. And one of the things was they had a thing called the Blue-Green program. So you could get out the Navy as a regular enlisted person. Say you were just like a dishwasher. You could or a cook, right? You get out the Navy as a cook. You could go into the Army to become a warrant officer and fly Cobra attack helicopters. I know a couple of people who've done that.
Hey, cool.
Yeah, all right. You could do it. You could do it now. You know, it's up to you. You know.
Well, they had the bootstrap program when I was in there, but they had to go through 4 years of college. You know, and I wasn't going to stay in the Air Force for 4 more years just to get that.
Right. Yeah, these people, they crossed over. They went straight to helicopter school, start flying helicopters.
That is cool. I like that. If I find that fucking recruiter today, I'm going to fuck him, punch his fucking nose right through his face.
Hey, so
I was going to go in regardless, but you don't lie to me like that.
Right.
Can you imagine the fucking lies he told other people? Jesus.
Told them they get a lot of women.
Yeah, it's common for a lot of recruiters to lie. They have quotas, and towards the end of the month, when it's time for them to make the quotas, that's when they start lying. You know, me luckily when I went in, I had I was 22, right? So I had a recruiter who was black dude, and he's about my age, and so he said, "Come here, man." He was like, "I'm not gonna bullshit you." He's like, "Me and you about the same age. Take a ride with me." He had a Mustang, right? Nice Mustang. He's like, "Come take a ride with me. I need to go get some gas," right? So I get in his car, and we go for a ride, and he would just drop everything. He's like, "Look, man, it's not all the bullshit shit they're telling you. Some of the shit they're telling you is true. Some of them blowing smoke up your ass." He said, and he told me, we ran down the list, everything's going to happen. He said, the bottom line is, he said, just make it through boot camp. Once you get through boot camp, he said, the hardest part of your day will be being where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there. He said, once you do that, everything else will just take care of itself. And he didn't lie. So when I got to boot camp and I started hearing all the other horror stories from, the other kids, my recruiter told me this, I was like, nah, everything's happening right now. I'm like, I've been expecting. I've been waiting for it to happen because my recruiter told me it was going to happen.
Interesting.
I heard two stories about the Navy, not with regards to recruiters, but with regards to women. I was on two different talk shows, and there were two different guys from the Navy who related the same experience, in that they were there on their ship, and the incidents for both of them were the same. They had to unload cargo from one ship to another, and they had women who were assigned with them in order to do it. These broads maneuvered their way into making these guys do more work than the fucking broads did, because the broads were going, I can't lift that. Can you help me out? And that's the experience of two different guys in the Navy who didn't even know each other talking about the same situation.
Well, you're about to get a third one, because what they're talking about. So what happens is when you take on food, we call it taking on stores. And what it is you helo pallets of food from a supply ship onto your ship. You break the pallets down, and it's all these boxes. And you form this real long line, a chain gang, from your hangar bay down to your freezer, to where you have to store the food. So, and you're just grabbing, you just turn to the left. Somebody throws the box in your arm, you turn to your left, and you pass it on to the next person, right? Some of these boxes can weigh, upwards of, 40 to 50 pounds, right? Believe it or not, the boxes of Snickers, goddamn, I hated Snickers. I didn't eat Snickers for like years, because I hated fucking humping those boxes of Snickers. But the candy bars were the heaviest boxes, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I can't tell you how many women, like, this is food that the entire crew is going to eat. You turn, and there's a woman next to you, and what she wants to do is take a step back, so that you have to take 2 steps over to the next man and hand him the box.
Next guy.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Get your ass right back in line. You want to eat this food too, so you're going to hump this box. You signed your name on a dotted line just like I did. You're going to hump this box. Mm-hmm. And so that they would do that.
Interesting.
That's the third incident. See, Ted, you found something out that you didn't have research about.
and I'm not even going to talk about how the captain of the ship had to constantly come over our general announcing system that goes throughout the entire ship and tell them to stop fucking while we are out at sea, because so many of them kept getting caught.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, this is a war ship in a war zone, and they're somewhere getting banged out. I remember one night, I'm going to sign, we had these things called zebra settings. The zebra settings are, they're watertight doors and hatches, and below the water level, you have to make sure certain ones are always secure, because they're unoccupied spaces. And if we were to take a hit the ship, then you want to know that space is sealed off. To give a ship,
so one gets filled up with water,
right. Give it the best chance of being buoyant and not sinking. So you have to go and check these fittings, but you also have to go and sign them off. There's one space, and you have to sign them off at midnight. I remember one night I'm going to sign them off, and I see this Humvee, and this Humvee has a line of Marines outside of it. And I'm wondering, why are these Marines outside this Humvee at midnight? Normally Marines are asleep around this time. The Marines are climbing one side of the Humvee, climbing out the other side. And I'm not going to say her name, but this old seaman such and such in the middle of the Humvee with her legs spread wide open. They're climbing one side of the Humvee, banging her and climbing out the other.
Jesus.
Were they paying?
Hey, did she ever file a lawsuit? That's the kind of brother that would file a lawsuit for sexual harassment too.
Put herself in their position, bro.
Why would she file a lawsuit? She could get it again next night if she could.
Were the guys paying? Were the guys paying?
I said I didn't ask any questions. I didn't care. I looked and I just shook my head and just kept walking.
Okay.
That's all you can do. It's like this. It's so common when you see it. You don't ask questions. Like you're not surprised by it. You're immune to it. You're desensitized to it.
Yep. Understood. Hey, it's another video I didn't watch, so let's see what comes out of this. Dear feminists, men and women are not equal. Get over it. So this is a woman presenting. Don't know her position, but let's hear it.
Dear feminists, I hate to break it to you, but men and women are not equal. Trigger warning. Regardless of how many snapbacks and baggy t-shirts you wear, women will never be the same as men. Like men will never be the same as women because they are not naturally designed to be different. Men are naturally masculine and females are naturally feminine. Wow! There's only two genders too, by the way. Men are better at building and fixing things, and women are better at nurturing and caregiving, and that's just a fucking fact. You can call it a social construct, but that's not true. Men and women are very different in many, many different ways, so therefore are not equal. Do they deserve equal rights? Of course. As a living creature, I believe everybody deserves equal rights. Rights such as political, social, and economic? Absolutely. Do women deserve extra rights because they have a vagina? No. You know what's ironic? Because feminists will complain about men manspreading, because they have balls and they kind of can't put their legs together, otherwise it's going to squish them. Painful, ow, but they don't care because they're men and not a woman. They complain about men manspreading, but yet they will walk around in bloody pants. But if you dare say something about that, that's period shaming. What? Camel toe never was and never will be sexy. That is disgusting and disrupting to everyone else. It makes everyone else uncomfortable.
You guys want to hear the rest of this? You guys want to hear the rest of her?
No, I'm good. I get it. Yeah.
Okay.
But here's where she already messed up at. See, you can always tell as a feminist if an anti-feminist is full of shit or not. When she said, "Do they deserve equal rights?" Absolutely. Why? Why do you deserve the same rights and privileges as I do when you don't bring the same values to society that I do? When you're not, when you can't do the things that I can do. I can build, right? If this country were to crumble right now, it would be the men rebuilding, not the women. So why do the women need the same right privileges as the men? They don't earn them. Men earn every right and privilege that they have, because when times are rough, and it's
what would happen
for the rubber to meet the road? It's the men that are doing the hard lifting, the heavy lifting, and the hard jobs, not the women.
Right. So this I haven't seen this either. What would happen if men disappeared? I want to see what they say about this.
What would happen if all men disappeared? Viagra would not be produced anymore. Hair transplant companies would go bankrupt. Women will ignore raised seats for the toilet, and companies that sell urinals will quickly leave the business. And this is only the beginning. Prepare to be amazed. God, what's going on? Be prepared that he will not answer you. After all, as we know, God is also a man, and they all evaporated this morning, including the majority of church attendance. So the Vatican is quiet today, as never before. Adolf Hitler started the Second World War, tried to conquer the world, and created a nuclear bomb. He killed 11 million people. During the terror of Stalin in the USSR, 20 million people died. Mao Zedong became famous for his violence, and his Great Leap Forward campaign led to the death of 40 million people. It is a pity that some men have not disappeared before. In the meantime, until the world without men began to fall apart, women would have to take the government into their own hands, so there would be no more wars. After all, women know that there are much worse things that you can do with another person than just kill him. Habitual life would change beyond recognition. 91% of electrical engineers in the United States were men, as well as 97.6% of electrical grid installers. So at the beginning, you would have to be in the dark. Do not try to turn on your taps. 95.5% of workers in wastewater treatment plants and system operators were men. It would be difficult to travel. 95.9% of the aircraft pilots and flight engineers were men, and almost 100% of engineers and operators of the locomotive were men. However, to travel not only to other countries, but also to reality, you do not even need to go out. Simply subscribe to the Ifland channel and click the bell to see the most exciting adventures. In the meantime, you may be more fortunate with bus drivers, almost half of whom are women. But the streets are likely to be chaos, and there will be no one man to help you deal with this. It's good that no one will start chasing the streets, taking advantage of the mess. After all, fans of Formula One disappeared. During the 68 years of the World Cup, only 5 women competed at the Grand Prix compared to 822 men in the same period. Sport in general will change a lot. Football and wrestling teams of the NCAA disappeared. There will be much less boxing battles, wrestling, and weightlifting on TV. There were the bulk of the men there. Women will have so many worries that there will be no time to play sports. However, as well as solace oneself with drink. Soon the alcohol industry will decline. Prior to this, the average American guy drank 23 gallons of beer, 15 pints of wine, and 10 pints of spirits every year. All in all, each year, about 200 million barrels, that's 6.2 billion gallons of beer are produced. And they bought alcoholic beverages worth about $116 billion. Most likely, women will find a more rational application of this money. All women will actively explore new professions, so some old ones will disappear. There are 40 to 42 million prostitutes in the world, according to a report from Foundation Cillies via Le Figaro. 3/4 of them are between the ages of 13 and 25, and 80% of them are female. Would it be good if the men disappeared? Absolutely not. Even with the iridescent development of events where women manage to understand the complex mechanism of the universe, the most terrible problem would be the impossibility of reproduction. 3.52 billion of women will soon be reduced to several million. Then humanity will exist for a while, only thanks to the banks of sperm. But without new donors, our race will be doomed. You can hope for DNA research and cloning, but that's another story. And what would happen if cloning became a common thing and you met your clone? See the next video.
Okay. Interesting. So, what you guys talk about, the electrical grids, the water, like and they didn't even get into who builds roads and bridges. And yes, what do you say, 75% in the airlines, but you'd have no airplanes because men created that. You'd have no electricity because men created that also. As well as phones, cell phones, computers, even though women believe they have created computers, the internet, all men.
Your New York City transit system, your subways will be shut down. I don't think there's hardly any female train drivers.
I've never seen one, and not that I've seen them all, but I've never ever seen a female train driver ever in New York City. I think he said almost 100%. Didn't he say he said almost 100% of train operators in the U.S. were men?
Yeah.
So that means
even pilots. When it comes to pilots, there are very few female pilots.
You couldn't even have pilots without men because there'd be no airplanes. We don't even hear how many men died trying to invent flight, jumping off of mountains to see if it would fly.
Right. I tell you what, man, if you really want to hear some of the funny early aviation, they're kind of funny, but they're sad at the same time because you know that person died when they did that. But yeah, it's horrible, man. When men were first trying to figure out flight, you're right. It was
my point. And this is why women would have never done it.
You literally had the hold my beer and watch this movement going on.
Exactly. They built feathered wings spread out. They tried all kinds of things. You see those. They had movie film back then, so you saw some of the contraptions that they created, and they literally were jumping off of mountains. What was the guy's name? The first parachute. It was in the 1700s.
Yeah, I was just about to bring him up.
That guy went to the top of a tower. Right.
Oh my God, it's horrible what happened to that guy.
Right. No. The first guy who made it work. It was a risk. I mean, he's the first guy who made it work, but how many guys it failed? See, women won't take those.
Right. No, I'm talking about the guy who one of the failures. He was even him, he still died a horrible death.
What the video was getting at, there'd be a lot of things that just don't exist at all. I mean, technically, here's what I'm saying. They wouldn't even have fire because fire is so risky. It's dangerous. Women would have been still living in caves with no fire. They wouldn't have been cutting down big trees, carrying them up and building houses. They just would have stayed in a cave.
Your statement is inaccurate. They wouldn't be living because animals would eat them.
Oh, look, free food, a free buffet.
Yeah, exactly, Joe. Exactly. Every bill was like, oh, look, Central's open again. And another point to make, too, you forget to mention the men who discovered the iron ore and figure out how to cook that iron down and make weapons and tools with
chemistry. That was chemistry, and it was dangerous.
Yeah, it was. It still is now. The steel mills and the foundries now.
Exactly.
Always been a lot of dudes in this type of stuff.
No question.
Dear feminists, I hate to.
Wait. So I saw this one.
Yeah, this is the exact reason why feminism was classified as a mental illness. It's just a bunch of women who are being childish because they're upset that men were born with a biological advantage over them. Get over it.
Right. Exactly. So this
we're a sexually dimorphic species. Get over
it. And so that's part of what I'm getting at. Is like, why don't we just accept these things? I think it's a crime against humanity to try and force little girls to be little boys. Like you should. And here's the other part. To major in math, generally people who major in math and physics have very high IQs. There's where the problem starts for girls and women, because women generally have average IQs above average. That when it comes to high IQs, the overwhelming majority of high IQs in the United States are men. There are very few women who have high IQs, meaning 131 or higher. And the higher you go, over 130, over 140, that you have even less women, and it's more men. But those people with those IQs are more likely to major in math and physics. So what we're trying to do is force women to do these things, and they're technically don't have the intellectual capacity. It doesn't make them dumb. I mean, they can have an IQ of 125, even 130, but it doesn't mean they are going to be as proficient in math as a guy who is has an IQ of 160 or even 140. And so we're trying to force girls like, you can do it, do it. And that's, and to your point, Chris, that's how we're going to end up with more women drug addicts and alcoholics, because we're telling them they have to do it by saying you can do it and you're a girl power and you can do better. But we're really forcing them to do things that they're not necessarily built for.
I agree. And they even go so far as to trick them by catering the educational system to the way they learn, which just further, pulls the wool over their eyes, So they cater the educational system to the way they learn, and they do really well. And all the way to high school. And then when they get to college, they find out, they get a slap in the face. They find out they're not as smart as they thought they were. And so now colleges have had to cater their education system to the way they learn. But the one thing they can't do is in STEM fields, there's no way of getting around that. They can't do that. So when they try to enter those fields, they fail miserably.
Well, I tell you what also happens is they change their majors. So they go in with microbiology and come out with a degree in government studies.
Yeah, or liberal arts.
But
or gender studies.
The Malcolm Gladwell did some research on that, and he said, a lot of people will go to Harvard, and maybe you were at the top of your class in high school, and you get to Harvard, you're not even a top 25. You're struggling to be in the top 75%, and so you can't figure out why everyone else is learning, the science or math faster than you. So they go into, like you said, liberal arts or something that's a lot easier. One of his solutions was the person should have just gone to Maryland University instead of Harvard. They would have come out better. But yeah, and even that can still happen at Maryland. So, but it happens a lot. Like the majors just get changed. And it's something that's not really discussed very much.
Right. It happens particularly in engineering. You'll start off, freshman year with half your class may be female. By the time you get to that junior year, you may have like one or two females left in your class.
Well, and remember that woman CEO who had an IT company said, when she went to school, 100 men and 14 girls, and the girls cheated. And then when she hired them, they sucked. They were not. They didn't apply it the way men did, and the men put in more hours, and the girls didn't want to do that. So this whole notion of equality, and that example is so perfect, because here's a woman who said, I wanted to support the whole, empower girls, and it failed. Like the women failed me. So I just hired the men because they got the job done. So I don't know how women refute things like that. I want to play a video that I think it's a comedy. It's more satire. This is a woman dating women. This is how she understood men by dating women.
So as you may remember, I came out as bisexual last year. And since then, I have been dating women. And what I found very fascinating is that the more I date women, the more I find myself understanding heterosexual men. Let me explain. Exhibit A. I was on a first date with a girl who asked me out, by the way. This is relevant because when the check came, she never once made a move to pay. Not even like the fake, let me reach for my purse move. And though I don't mind paying on a date, part of me felt like, the offer would have been nice. I was also a little taken aback that she didn't even say thank you. And I never heard from her again. It really made me feel like she just asked me out so she could have a free dinner. And the moment I thought that, I was like, oh my God, I sound like all of my guy friends right now. And my argument against why guys should pay for dates has always been like, look, girls take hours to get ready. Our investment is looking really nice for you. Makeup, clothes, that costs money too. But we were both girls in this situation. We both took hours to get ready, so I definitely felt slighted. Exhibit B. On another date, I went back to a girl's house and I ended up making friends with her cat. That's not a pun. I'm talking about her literal, actual animal. And she said, wow, my cat never likes anyone. I better go out and buy a wedding dress. And again, I felt like I got some serious perspective. I have been guilty of making these kinds of jokes on dates with men. I never really thought anything of it. I was just being silly. But then when I was on the receiving end of it, I suddenly understood the panic. And finally, Exhibit C. One girl invited me back into her house, and her specific words were, do you want to come in and make out? Obviously, I'm like, yeah, you're really pretty. I want to press my face to yours. But then when we got there, we both just sat on the couch and she talked till like 3 a.m. And I was like, yo, girl, I got to wake up at like 6 a.m. I was told there would be kisses here. There are no kisses. And like, look, I don't want to sound like an asshole. Like, I don't mind talking. I love talking. But she could have said, do you want to come in and just talk? And I would have had totally different expectations for the evening. Finally I started falling asleep and I was like, hey, I gotta go. And I gave her one kiss and left. And I felt sad that the amount of kisses promised did not equal the amount of kisses delivered. And once again, I felt like a dude who was upset that I did not receive the expected physical kisses I was promised. And I wanted to talk about this because I felt like this has really been expanding my perspective when it comes to dating. I finally understand a lot of the complaints my male friends have about dating that I admit I would usually dismiss. But now I really get it when they say, dating is just so expensive, man. Sometimes I feel like a girl doesn't even like me for me. She just wants like a boyfriend. I wish it were more socially expected to go Dutch on the first few dates, but you're like a jerk if you even suggest it. And any experience that expands your compassion and understanding is one that I think is worthy of sharing. So what about you? Have you had any experiences that have shifted your viewpoint dramatically? Let me know.
So I played this because I forgot to share it with you guys.
I've seen that video. I like that video.
I played it because when two women get married, that's kind of what happens. They are disappointed that the other one doesn't take the initiative because they're both sitting there waiting for the other to take initiative. It happens when it comes for paying for dates. It happens when it comes to sex. It happens for so many things. It's surprising because if women are saying they want equality, it means that they would be responsible. Now we're talking about the social aspect of equality. And so women claiming, this is why I asked the question, do women really want equality? Because what you just saw, that would disappear. Women would be as equally responsible for walking up to a guy and saying, hey, I'd like to get to know you. I want to take you out. What's your number? And then when the bill comes, she's reaching in, she's getting her credit card and paying for it. And it's expected. It's not like right now. And if a woman does that on a first date and you let the woman pay, a lot of women say, I will never go out with that guy again. He actually allowed me to pay.
That's true.
So, but
yeah.
But they don't, that means
That's
they
true.
really, they don't want equality. This is just blabber
They don't
talk.
want equality.
Right. But so that we're looking at the social aspect of equality now. So, right, we talked about war. Joe, I showed how when a queen was on the throne without a man, they were 27% more likely to go to war than kings were. So
Yeah, I heard that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So this is, we've got a lot of lies that we're living with. And then when it comes to social, here's a woman who tried bisexual and saw that even with two women, they're flaky. Even with when it's two women, technically that is the level playing field where they have equality, and they still fail to show up. So what is it?
You know why?
What's that?
Because of the sense of entitlement that both of them have. If both of them, let's say, for example, are eight, and that's the reason why they're attracted to each other, they expect each of the other to make the first move. So they're going to sit there on the couch until one of them makes the first move. And as you were talking about a minute ago with women approaching men, women cannot stand rejection. We get used to it after a while. They can't take it. They can't handle it.
I heard that too, but it's out of the tables are turning now.
By the time you're in your late teens, when you get rejected, it's like it's a joke to you, right? Because you know what's going to happen sometimes. You're not going to. You're always going to strike out at some chick. So when you get rejected, it's like, who cares? I got other shit to do anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
but if you're lucky, I was an ugly teenager. I wasn't considered good looking until I got into my late 20s. After I started lifting weights a bit, and then all of a sudden, my body and my facial features came together, and all of a sudden, it would happen like almost overnight. I became an attractive man. But I wasn't. As a teenager, it was. I wasn't the guy that was considered handsome.
Isn't that the story of the ugly duckling turning into a swan?
Just about.
They say you got like Mr. Zucker said, you got to grow into that. You got to mature into all of that. What he's talking about.
Yeah, that happened to me. My body, my facial features, everything came together, and it came together. Suddenly, because it just came together. And prior to that, like about a week or two prior to that, I remember I was at a dance, and I was asking some girls to dance, and about half, 60%, 70% said no. 2 weeks after that, I was asking the same girls and then other girls to dance, and not only did they say yes, and from that time on, they were saying yes with a nice little smile, talking to me as we're dancing, and I'm going, okay, I don't mind, But I knew what happened. The body came together at the right time in the right way. It's like seeing something that was blurry. All of a sudden, it's no longer blurry anymore. That's what happened to me. That's the way I make the analogy. So, Chris. And most teenagers, can take rejection with a grain of salt. With me, I was getting rejected left and right, and of course, I know what I'm talking.
You haven't been rejected until you've been rejected by white women. White women, when they reject you, they do it nicely.
Not all the time. Not all the time, Chris. No, Chris, don't buy that one. They can be vicious. No, they can be way more vicious, Chris. Like nasty vicious. Especially if they're really hot. Especially if they're really hot.
If you're at a dance with a meat market mentality, they don't have to say anything, but they'll look at you and and they'll make a face like, how do you dare ask me to dance? Shit like this.
Yeah, see, you said they look at you and they make that face. No. When you're rejected by a black woman, like say at a club, he wants everybody in the club to know that she rejected you. So he's very vocal.
Oh, really? Oh, fuck.
Yeah. So, and it's not going to be nice. It's going to be, you ugly motherfucker. How dare you think you had the chance come over here trying to holler at me? And he's not going to require, like I said, he wants everybody in the club to know that she rejected you.
Oh, Chris, that's the truth. God, man.
And
really, those women need those. Those women need a fucking beat down. That's just downright disrespectful to the max.
Now you seeing why I had to get into all of those therapists and dealing with the side characters and all them, cause like that's what I was telling Chris. And said here, just you want that dude to be masculine, but you don't want that dude to get to the point where you know, Chris, where you almost getting downright physical with her like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what a lot of guys are doing now. So Joe, even to this day, Joe, their new way of doing it now, when guys approach them and try to talk to them, when they get ready to reject them, you know what the first thing they do is? They pull out their phone and they go either on Facebook Live or on Instagram Live, and they show the internet how they're rejecting this guy and not doing it in a nice way. No, I'm not kidding you. I'm dead serious.
Holy fuck.
That's why I said, that's why I said you haven't
How the fuck do you guys put up with these fucking black chicks?
That's how come some of us going overseas.
You haven't been rejected until you've been rejected by a black woman.
I guess so. Holy
That's
shit.
reason, Mr. Joe, that's how come you got the passport game, folks. Them brothers going overseas, Chris, but they ain't just going over there for women. They going over there buying real estate and property and things of that nature.
Yeah, a lot of them, for a lot of black women, the reason why they're upset now is because these same men that they rejected went on to become successful, and they dated out. So they found them, a nice white woman, an Asian woman or a Latina. The Latinas are killing it, by the way. And they settled down. They had nice families, and they're living high quality lives, right? Meanwhile, this black woman who's been over here rejecting people on Facebook Live all day long, just to be a bitch, she's still miserable and stuck in the project. Got 2 or 3 baby daddies, with
That's where she fucking belongs.
Exactly.
Jesus, she's that fucking nasty.
Right.
Good
Yeah,
fuck.
in their mind, that black man that they rejected was supposed to wait, keep bettering himself, but wait until all their options were exhausted, and then he come back to them, and then they would accept him,
God, fuck. I thought you were kidding around when you were telling me about the way the
No,
fucking
I'm
black
dead
chicks
serious.
did it.
No, everything I say is true.
Yeah,
Joe,
man, he
Joe,
got trust me. Chris
Joe,
ain't got no reason to make that up.
Joe,
Mr. Joe,
those are the bottom of the
Seriously?
barrel.
Damn.
On a socioeconomic class, those are the bottom of the barrel women. I mean and it's not. I'm not saying like not all, but I mean there are some nasty women who are in higher socioeconomic classes. But like what Chris is talking about, that's bottom of the barrel. So if you're in the projects, there are lots of things that they just don't learn, and that's why that's the exact reason they are there.
Apparently.
That's why they're there for
God
generations.
But I mean, Ted, even in the higher echelon women, some of them can be like Mr. Joe said, give you that look, but they gonna be graceful about rejecting you. They ain't gonna just put your business all out there for everybody in the world.
That's what I'm saying.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right. The women who are at the
first
bottom.
time I got rejected by a white woman, he did it so nice, and I was like, holy shit, like he did it so nice. He did it so nice. I thought I still had a chance.
Well,
it was just that. I'm like, wait a minute. She didn't call me a ugly motherfucker. She didn't do none of this other shit. I'm like, I still got a shot.
Well, so one of the things I wanted to say.
No. You go to a black woman and she has to tear you down, not just reject you. Any other woman, they'll just tell you no, thank you. Some of them they'll say no, hey, no, I don't want to date you. I don't want to, fuck you or anything, but I'll still dance with you, Some women do that, but black women, no. When it's no from them, it's a hard no all across the board. They don't even want to acknowledge your existence.
So there was
fuck, man. You made me feel better.
So there's a meme that goes like this. The woman says, this guy comes up to me, he asked me out, and I said no. And she said, now I'm very upset and depressed because I wanted to go out with him. I only said no because I wanted him to try harder. So that is another part of it. There's the game playing that many women do. I just wanted to see you squirm and work harder, and you didn't do that.
Yeah.
You didn't do that, so now I'm really upset because you walked away.
Yeah, and then they say to you, "Well, you give up easily."
Right, exactly.
Well, fuck.
Exactly.
You gotta shit. God damn! No wonder you guys are this fucking angry. Fuck yeah! Fucking bro, put your fucking business out in the fucking club like that just to be fucking nasty. Doesn't even know you, and she's speaking that way to a man.
I'm just surprised you haven't seen it, or you probably seen it and thought, oh man, that guy must have really done something to piss her off. And no, he was just trying to ask her out on a date.
Shit. Damn.
Well, I was through when Chris told what he seen at there with that Humvee. I would have been through then, Chris. I would have been shaking my head and going by my business.
After a while, you become so we had a storeroom on our ship, or a supply room. And it's a huge supply room. It was known that after a certain time at night, the senior enlisted, there was several certain junior enlisted girls that they would take into the supply room and they would literally pimp out to other people on the ship.
Fear feminist.
So like I said,
I hate to break.
It happens so much that you become desensitized to it. And it's like, but at the same time, you know not to ever try to start a relationship with those girls. You know what I mean? You know that you know damn well no matter how drunk you get, you're not gonna kiss them.
Right. Shit. Hey Chris.
But yeah.
Where did you get your information from when you were talking about if women were in the army or in the armed services and they had to go to war? They actually had a study that showed that they couldn't fire the same kind of weapons we could. That they had to have weapons that were made for them, lighter weapons.
I forgot where I found that study at. Yeah. The reason why we can't switch to the 308 or a higher caliber than the 223s that we use or 5.56.
Because of recoil and shit.
Study.
Oh yeah. I'll look it up.
I forgot where.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, but even right now, there's been a debate. So the government brought up this around the 6.8. I think Grundle is what it's called. The government, mainly military, brought up all those rounds, and they were going to switch to a new rifle and use this round, right? Because this round it penetrates Kevlar. It naturally penetrates Kevlar.
There's a serious.
High velocity, very powerful round. It penetrates Kevlar. It cuts through Kevlar like a hot knife through butter.
Wow.
Right. So much so that, like, if you were to get caught carrying it on the street by a cop, like you ask a lot of questions, right? That is in the FN. The FNs, they don't like cops. Don't like see those either for the same reason.
Yeah, they call them cop killer bullets, right? Yeah.
But you know, the military is probably going to scrap that idea because once again, you have more women in the military. They're starting to give them combat roles and let them in, SEAL training, all this and that. Well, they can't handle. They can't handle the power of those weapons, right? I was in when I first went in. We used to be able to shoot the M60 standing up. Now we've all seen Rambo, right? You saw Rambo hold up the M16 one-handed and just let loose that gun, right? Well, I used to do that. I could do that with the M60. I could stand up. And once it gets going, like, it's really not that heavy of a gun. It's not that bad. But I've seen that gun just about send women around sideways.
Bitches, right?
Yeah. And it's so bad that when women got ready to shoot it, they would hand it to them. Excuse me. They would hand it to them, and the man would have to stand behind them and brace their back for them to keep them from falling back on their ass.
Jesus.
Not to mention, Chris,
because of that, they stopped letting the men shoot the M60 standing up, which that was fun for us. So then they put the M60 on a bipod, and now we had to lay down on the deck in a prone position and shoot the M60 that way. Which, and don't get me wrong, in a combat scenario, that's how you're going to fire it anyway. But it's still fun to shoot that motherfucker standing up because it's a fully automatic fucking machine gun, man. You stand up and just let it go.
Yeah. All this political correctness ruining. Oh, sorry, Kenny.
Oh, ain't no problem. But I was gonna say, Chris, that other thing Rambo here was on that tripod. What you call that? That's like a 60 caliber. That big machine gun he was using. That thing you got to have. Yeah, you got to have a tripod on that thing, right?
No, you don't. No, that's what I was shooting standing up. As a matter of fact, I had a picture. I lost it. Where I used to stand watch on the fantail of the ship with that gun, and I could shoot that gun standing up easily.
Yeah, but I don't. But that's not the Gatling gun. The Gatling gun, that's over 50 calibers. That the fucking Gatling gun will penetrate fucking almost a battleship.
Yeah. The 50 cals were the 50 cals were a different story. 50 cals were mounted, but yeah. But even then they were.
I remember. Yeah. Can you imagine a chick trying to fire that? You put that on a fucking wheels and you put the broad behind that, trying to fire the 50 caliber. She'd be fucking flying backwards.
Hey Joe, we had a woman that was in security. To this day I don't know how she did it. So we have a rail that goes around the edge of the flight deck, right? It goes up probably about 6 inches off the deck. So we're qualifying for our 9mm, and I don't know how she did it, but somehow she missed aiming at her target, which was, a silhouette that was just torso height of your average 5'8" person, right? She hit the deck, hit that little rail. The bullet fractured, went in several pieces, and hit a couple people. She was the only person in security for 6 months not allowed to carry a weapon.
Well, at least they did something about it. But fuck.
Right. So whenever we had like a real security threat, all the security personnel would come out with real guns. She would come out with a plastic gun as if nobody would know that was this red plastic gun that was like not a real threat.
A red gun? Yeah, nobody's gonna notice that.
Yeah, exactly. But she would carry this little red plastic gun around in her holster as if it was a real thing. It was absolutely hilarious to watch.
Unreal. Oh man, it's incredible. This is incredible. What you doing, Ted? Any more comments?
Yeah, this is the world we live in.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And women.
Go ahead.
And women, they don't think they have female privilege. It's amazing. You talk to them and they always got to point the finger at us. If it weren't for us protecting them, they wouldn't be able to run their mouths. Fuck.
Hey, you know what, Chris? That's funny though. These people talk about these people. You gotta listen what come out from Mountain Time, man. Yeah, you said the police horrible, the police bad, but who protecting you? Who putting their life on the line though? Protecting this earth. So we gonna defund these people. So that's just the stupidest thing I ever heard when all this police stuff was going on. How you gonna get rid of the people that's serving and protecting everybody, patrolling the streets? I ain't got time to patrol the streets, Chris. What that look like?
You know what happened?
Come on, man.
So you know what happened when they started that whole defund the police? Assaults on women went up like dramatically, and the first thing they did is go back and beg the police to come back.
Yeah, but you know what the plan is? Remember you were talking about the plan of using the women as part of the New World Order? Part of this plan of the New World Order is to defund the police, just like back in the 1930s in Hitler's time, and then replace the police with the criminals that the fucking cops put in jail. So now you give the fucking criminals a badge, but what do you think they're going to do? They're going to fucking start killing everybody and saying it's in the name of the law.
Yeah, that's who they want. That's who they want to fuck anyway. You know, they want to fuck the thugs and them that they obviously think the thugs are going to sell their drugs and patrol the neighborhoods and make the neighborhoods safe at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. Sell the drugs, make them safe. Okay.
So if you look at where something like that has happened similarly, you can look right south of the border in Mexico. El Chapo, some of those drug cartels, they have literally taken by force companies with natural resources. They have taken over oil wells or gold mines and just said, this is ours now. Literally. So, you know,
what do the federales do about it? Nothing, right?
But what Chris just named, what you just described, there would be nothing stopping that from happening here. The same thing would happen. They take over the water supply and say, especially the savvy, the smart criminals, they'd be like, hell, there's more money in water supply than there is in heroin or cocaine, because if we own water, everyone wants that. And we can turn off the spigot and say, pay up. Your prices have gone up and there's nothing you can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
Just like in
that. Yeah. Well, an example of that was, how about last summer with the 6 block BLM? Took over 6 blocks in Seattle.
Oh, yeah.
Well, see, but this my thing. But this my thing, Ted and Chris and Ms. Joe. I would like to challenge you guys, man, on the thing. How would that play out if those criminals trying to go at war with elites over these resources and things like that? How would that play out? I don't think that's going to end too well.
No, I just told they did it in Mexico. And not only did they take natural resources, El Chapo was locked up. They locked up his 2 sons, and he told his boys to get his sons, and they actually did. And to do that, they had to have a direct military confrontation with the Mexican army. And they actually won. The drug lords beat the Mexican army and got his sons.
So, in other words, you tell me something similar to a Pablo Escobar type of situation.
Yeah, this El Chapo is. Someone made a list of the top 100 most influential people in the world, and his name was number 75 on that list.
Wow, El Chapo.
Just think the top that low. The top most influential people in the world, and he made it a criminal. I was actually shocked because this was Forbes that put this list together, and you had all these, Bill Gates and all these people.
Buffett.
Warren Buffett, right? Just a bunch of people.
No, I'm surprised he was just that low.
No, I heard you. I heard you, Chris.
I figured him and Pablo Escobar would be higher.
No, Escobar is dead. This is just a couple of years ago. So I'm.
No, I know Escobar's dead, but you said of all time, right?
No, I didn't say that. I just said the top 100 the top 100 most influential people in the world. So Escobar is dead, so he doesn't count.
Yeah. He's dead. My bad. Yeah.
So
I thought he's been dead or alive.
So yeah. No. This influential, right? So not in history, but because El Chapo wouldn't have made it. Neither would Escobar. You'd have some other people there. You'd have to put Hitler on that list for sure. But what I'm saying is, it was Forbes. Like, you would think that Forbes is dealing with the corporate. I was really surprised to see a criminal make the list at all, because everyone else was like of pedigree, but he was on the list at number 75.
Well, Ted, if he was on that list, then Bernie Madoff ought to be on that list too, shouldn't he?
I don't remember. The only person I know, Bill Gates was on it. I don't remember who was number one.
Yeah, man, this is wild, Ted. You just told me something I ain't know.
But yeah, it's I think the only thing that's gonna change things is they keep asking for equality and we keep shielding them from it. That's why I said give them that equality, let them have a taste of that medicine.
That's right.
So give them 100% equality for about 3 months. I guarantee you they won't want it anymore.
That's right. I'm with you on that one. You let them know they're going to be held accountable, and let them expose their weaknesses, and nobody to come by with the chivalrous attitude to protect them. Oh yeah, they'll be going back to their favorite occupation of victimhood. All right.
Right. Because see, right now they get to claim that they're as strong as a man, without having to form like a man, because there's always a man around them to shield them from the full repercussions of what it means to be a man. But remove those safety nets.
Well, see, that's actually the point, right? That's the point. So that's why I said, do women really want equality? Because if you do, like we talked about this, how two men come together, we understand there are boundaries, even if we're having an argument. We know there's a certain line you just don't cross with a guy. Women don't understand that. But if you say, now we're equal, and I can actually break your jaw, and there are no repercussions because I'm treating you just like a man.
Yeah.
Then women will start to learn the same boundaries that men have learned. It's an ugly lesson.
That's part of Bill. That's part of Bill Burr's act when he's talking about what he would do if he, if he knew nobody would kick his ass. He'd be up there in the face of guys who were 6'4", 240 pounds all the time, knocking their desserts out of their hand and the cigarettes out of their hand and everything.
But that's what women do. That's exactly what women will do. The guy is 6'6", we hear, and then these football players go to jail because they defended themselves from that behavior.
Yeah, they're told that they get in a conversation with a woman to go lock themselves in the bathroom and call the police. Imagine you're 6'4", 240 pounds, you bench press 575 pounds, and you're running to the bathroom to lock yourself in the bathroom from someone who's 5'3" and 120 pounds.
Yeah.
And because you do that, and not because you're scared of this person, not because this person can actually beat you up, but because of the repercussions you'll suffer from other men if you do hurt this person.
That's right.
And then now this person actually gets to go around thinking that they can actually beat your ass.
Well,
but you see what happened with Roy and Siegfried, though, did you? When Fool with I forget the tag man. That Tiger Maul Roy and Siegfried put on stage, and guess what? That was it. You just can't keep on poking and prying with this thing. Well, that's the same way with the feminism stuff, man. Them big old dudes will start to laugh at.
No, they have too much to lose. They have too much to lose. They're millionaires. They don't want to get thrown in prison because they've been living, too high on the hog for them to even fathom going to prison and living that lifestyle in prison.
Well, that guy, is he still locked up? What's his name? Stacy, who threw that woman up against the wall. I showed that. I don't know.
But
I say every best role model should be Ray Caruth. You know, that's everybody knows the story of Ray Caruth, right?
No.
Ray Caruth was a wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers, and he had been banging this one stripper, you know, who, you know, and she got pregnant, and she first agreed to have the abortion, whatever, and then when she found out she could ruin his life by keeping the baby and putting him on child support and all this, he decided to, you know, take matters into his own hands, let's just say that, and he ended up doing less time in jail than he would have been spent on child support.
Oh, interesting. That's interesting.
So from a financial standpoint, it wasn't a bad move for him what he did.
Wow. You know, we hear about women disappearing in large numbers in the U.S., and we chalk it up to sex trafficking. But I wonder how much of it is what you just described, and the men just never got caught. Because one of the things that they did, I did a show on this, I think last year, and they hadn't been keeping stats on the amount of women who were murdered and they were pregnant. And come to find out, they were murdered by either a boyfriend, a husband. In some cases, it was the side chick murdered by the wife because the side chick was pregnant, wanted to have it, and the wife murdered her. But the point is, how often is this happening? And we don't. It's not being reported that way. The women just disappeared because of whether it was pregnancy and it was cheaper to get rid of her than to pay child support or go to jail. We have no way of keeping stats on it, but it may not.
I wish we did, because I've often said that, you know, it's amazing about the kind of patience that men have, especially when these broads divorce them. And let's say a certain percentage of them admit, I only married you for your money, and now he's got to pay child support and alimony until she marries again. So, I mean, that's robbing a man of his assets. And finally, he knows about it because she tells him.
Right.
And I can't see this from men who are rich, who marry like Trump for the third time. Once you marry once, you should learn your lesson. As a matter of fact, you shouldn't even get married if you've got assets, you know, that are way up there, $10 million or more. Because a prenuptial agreement, you cannot make a prenuptial agreement that will deny her a certain percentage of your assets.
No, Trump did it.
I don't think any state allows that.
Trump did it. What Trump?
No, Trump
Yes.
tried to do it.
No.
No, she still got 25 million.
No, listen. His
got
first
25 million.
That was part of the prenuptial agreement. His first, he factors in a prenuptial agreement a certain amount that he's willing to let them walk away with. And that's his first wife. The prenup said she would get 99 million. She contested it, and she said, "I didn't know he was going to have this much money at this point, so I deserve more." And she contested. She sued. She was able to get another $5, maybe $6 million. I think it was another $5. She ended up with 104 million, but she was trying to get significantly more, and she failed because of his prenuptial agreement.
But right. But since you're familiar with that, you know what else she did? She was not supposed to write any tell-all books, but she did. She wrote a novel, and everybody knew it was all about Trump.
Yeah, but think about that. How sad is it that you bled somebody for 100 million, and that's still not enough to you?
Exactly.
Still not enough. Yeah.
But so if we take it back to the topic, do women want equality? So let's take that. Ivanka Trump, she ended up with 105. Let's just say she ended up with 100 million, right? Elon Musk's wife, Jeff Bezos' wife ended up with how many billions of dollars? Elon Musk's wife ended up with something. Bill Gates' wife ended up with something. if women are supposed to be so equal and they can do everything, and we've been told the only thing that's been holding them up is they haven't had money. But now you have, and I'm not even counting the women who inherited billions from Sam Walton and the Vanderbilts and the Carnegies and the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds. We can just go down, you know, people have had billions and hundreds of millions for generations. And yet these women have done nothing with it. Look at what Bezos' wife is doing. She's giving the money away. And women are claiming that he couldn't have made Amazon without her. She helped build it. So if she has that much knowledge on how to build an Amazon, why hasn't she built a successful company? She married a teacher and she's just dropping money off like because she didn't earn it. It's just free money and she's just giving it away. So I mean, those women are the perfect example of why there cannot be equality, because even if you give women all the money, more money than they could ever spend, they do nothing with it. They give it away. They build nothing.
I wish more women would show up on the show. I would like to have their, I'd like to find out what kind of rebuttals they make.
Well,
they won't, Joe. They won't because they can't do it. They can't logic. You can't defeat logic and reason. You can't do it. You can't do it with emotion, and that's all they have is emotion.
Well, there's a woman on Instagram who's, when I put up a post that said just this, do women really want equality? And I said the things I said, and the woman's response was, well, women are just, that's a choice. We're just making a choice, and we don't want that. And then she said, and with me, she wrote EW, I would never want all the pressure of running a business. I said, I'm glad you said that because you represent the majority of women, yet women are claiming they are equal. They should get what men get, but you all actually don't want it. And she's like, well, that's a choice. I'm like, no, it's not, because you don't have the biology to do it. So you don't even have a choice. You don't have a choice. You have limits, and that's all you can do. You do what you can. That's it. You beg men for jobs and claim you want equality. And then I asked her, I said, I invite you to come on the show today and support your premise. Please come on and address this. And as Chris said, they don't show up.
No.
Hey,
they have their own shows, but then they mute you when you show up, and you want to give the other side of the argument.
Well, Joe, I had.
Right. The minute you start winning,
go ahead,
that's
Chris.
Their power. That's the only power that they have. Their power is, when you start winning, I'm going to silence you because now you're on my platform. That's why they won't come here. They'll never come here.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say, and I saw your comment, Chris. So, Joe, I had a woman on the show this past Friday, and the title was, oh God, how come I forgot? It was about sex workers.
You know what? I went to that show. I saw, because I was looking to see what you would have for today, and I saw that show that was on Friday, so I started playing it. Do you know, I couldn't understand a word that chick said because of the production value of the show. The way that I guess they downloaded it was so bad, I couldn't understand what you said, and I couldn't understand what she said.
Oh, that sucks. I didn't know that. Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, download it and see what happens.
Oh.
Usually the Black Talk Radio shows are very, very clear.
That's not good. The show was called An Intimate Conversation with a Sex Worker. That's what I called it.
With a sex worker.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I had a woman on, and it was very interesting in no way was she expressing a desire for equality. If anything, she was looking for a man to take care of her, and she was very matter of fact about that.
She was looking for what?
A man to take care of her.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, because she's watched Pretty Woman and The City Shades of Grey many times. Yeah, because obviously rich men love marrying prostitutes in her mind.
So right. So what was also interesting was she said she once dated a guy who was very masculine. He was a Russian dude, and he had very firm boundaries. He actually functioned in a very masculine way and dealt with her as a woman and said, "This is how it goes." And she admitted she liked playing games with men, and he was not having that, and he shut that down. So one hand she thought he was controlling, and another she said she found out that basically she was the side chick and he had a girlfriend, a real girlfriend. So she said she backed out, and now she's saying, well, guys like that are controlling and dangerous, and they have too much access to different women. So she said that she wants a beta male. She just wants a weak guy. She can lead him, tell him what to do. And she wants the guy she can lead, and he'll follow her instructions and do what she says. But here's the sort of paradox to it all. The man that she would actually prefer and said the only man she respected aside from her father was the Russian dude who laid down the law. And that is the kind of man that she would respect. She said the weak beta dude she would never respect. She would resent him forever or have to trick her mind into thinking. So I'm bringing all that up to say that women actually do not want equality. They actually do want the guy who's masculine.
Oh, no.
As Chris is saying, they'll shut them down, and they get high fives for shutting a man down and actually never producing anything, right? So the man lays out logic, and she combats it with emotion and never actually and changes the subject, but never deals with it. So, but it technically they've just been tricked out of having an appreciation for a masculine man, and they get applauded for being disrespectful for men. So, but technically they really do want the masculine man. Hey, Grim Pickens, that is correct. That is correct, Grim Pickens. If you don't stand up, she knows it, and she will treat you. That the woman on the show said she would absolutely resent a beta male, even though she would marry him and he pays the bills. She would resent him severely.
She would what? You're breaking in and out, sir.
Oh,
she would emasculate him.
She said she would, no. She said she would resent him severely, is what she said.
She would what him?
Resent.
Oh, resent.
Okay. And that's what I'm saying to you. Now that woman did say she want a beta male that she can turn up and beat and dominate and all that. But deep down, on the flip side, she really do want to mess with that alpha male.
Right, because she said she would resent the beta male because he's weak. He's weak with her, and he's weak in society. So she would resent him. And I'm saying that's really what women want. They don't want equality. They've actually just been propagandized into wanting equality, and it's not what they want. Because when you start asking, well, what equality? Why don't you just go build your own companies and you can be equal, and no man can tell you what to do, and patriarchy won't oppress you? But they don't want that. They'd rather go beg men for jobs, and So it's in a way it's pointless to even listen to what they're saying. It's better for men to go along and do what they're going to do. Tell women, I'm holding you accountable. If you don't like it, pack up and move to an island. Go somewhere, but don't be around men, because we're all going to hold you accountable. Even if I don't know you,
That's right. Or just leave my house. And if you don't feel like leaving on your own, I can help you out.
If Fat Domino said, I hear you knocking, Dave, but you just can't come in. No, you're not helping her out. You're not helping her out. You know, you're just showing her how gravity works.
That's right. I'm showing her physics. That's all.
Well, women don't. They
Right,
don't.
it's a teachable moment.
Women do not major in physics. They do not like physics. You have to be intelligent to major in physics, so they don't like that stuff.
Well, they're going to have to learn about inertia if they don't know how to lead. Right.
So anyway, so yes, I wanted a woman to come on. She was talking trash, but she apparently doesn't feel like she can hold her own. So here we are.
You know, it's funny that you have. I don't. You watch Tommy Sotomayor?
Wait, I didn't hear you say that again.
You watch Tommy Sotomayor?
Sometimes, yes.
Well, this your topic today is very close to what he had last night. So last night his topic was why do black women have such a problem when black men date interracially, but they have this swirl and divestment movement where they're advocating for black women to date interracially, right?
Right.
And why is it that they're allowed to have a preference, but black men aren't? None of them were able to call in and defeat anything he said or give a valid reason. The only person that called in that gave a logical, intelligent answer was one woman that agreed with him. And what she said was basically because black women have always had access to white men, they feel it's unfair now that they don't. Meanwhile, black men have access to other races of women, but nobody's picking them outside of black men anymore. While they were the first ones to start, interracially mixing with white people. They feel it's unfair, and that's why a lot of them are mad that black men are doing it now, and black men are doing it in higher numbers than they can.
Right.
So right. What they did was, so he had this show on what's that that you go on all the time? The new thing?
Oh, Clubhouse.
Yeah, Clubhouse. This is on Clubhouse. Do you know he couldn't even make it through his 2-hour stream on Clubhouse before they had already flagged his channel down? Wow.
Shit.
Wow.
You kidding me, Chris? Just for having that conversation.
Yeah, I've been kicked out of rooms in Clubhouse before.
Yeah.
Even men have gotten upset.
Like, why they don't come? That's why.
Even men have gotten upset with me on Clubhouse.
Oh yeah. There's a whole culture of human,
Yeah. Men are conditioned to be gentlemen, and we always think until we find out the hard way, unless you have the philosophy where you don't have to touch the stove to find out that it's hot, you just watch other people touch the stove.
Right.
That this is bullshit about the lives between the genders. It is a battle between the genders, and the women keep on blaming us for what they do, for their weaknesses, their deficiencies, and then if we try to help them, sometimes they want it, sometimes they don't. But of course, the little girls they're allowed to change their minds, and you got to keep up with their, with their mental vicissitudes and their emotional vagaries. Fuck that shit. You're supposed to be an accountable, intelligent female. You do understand English. You know about the word accountable. Act it. That's all. And men have to learn that. And, I don't blame men. I don't want to call them simps. They are gentlemen. they have been propagandized by the mothers and the fathers and society to treat women well. And you should treat people well. But when they don't reciprocate, you got to wake up sometime.
Well,
I think you should treat people as well as they treat you. And what we have is a group of individuals, or a whole group of individuals who feel it's okay for them to mistreat you, but you're still expected to treat them nicely. You're still expected to handle them with kid gloves.
That's right. That's right. And then you wonder why. I'm surprised that hasn't been reported earlier about domestic violence in the range of 40% to 70% initiated by women. I looked into that years ago, and I couldn't find that particular type of. I found 40%, but it was supposedly an estimate. It wasn't really confirmed. But then Ted, I remember you brought up the stats, so I took a look at it, and I found the at least one article: 40% to 70% of domestic violence initiated by women. And you know why? One of the reasons is because we don't believe they can be harmful. So we're not on the lookout for a dangerous fucking broad. And you should be, because they're nothing more than human. They're just a fucking human being that carries around a uterus.
You remember Steve McNair, the quarterback for the Tennessee Titans?
Oh, the quarterback, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go look up his story.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Air McNair. Yeah, he was good.
The Chinese look up what his wife did to him and his fleet.
What happened?
Put a bullet in his head.
Oh shit!
Because she thought he was doing something he wasn't doing.
It's crazy. It gets to the point, Chris, like that Stephen King movie, Misery. You remember that old movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
exactly what it's getting to. And that lady, Lorena Bobbitt.
That man.
Got those type
Yeah,
you got those type
Lorena Bobbitt. You know, her
oh yeah, Donald.
And she thinks it's perfectly okay to cut his dick off, and what, they throw it in the garbage disposal?
No, there was one, right? There was more than one case of that. There was another one, she threw it outside. But yes.
Yeah, the one that
and you know what?
In her car down the highway, and she threw it out the window.
Yeah. And you know what else happened? They were on either she or somebody else, some other chick, or they were.
You need to stop perpetuating the myth.
Abuse by females, and the women were laughing about that. In the audience, they were laughing about, holy shit, fuck.
But think how women think it's okay for them to destroy a man's clothes, destroy his personal property, break his car windows, slash his tires, do whatever because he cheated on her, right? But then when they get caught, oh well, get over it.
Yeah.
Get over it. Get over it.
Hey,
you're mad. Stop acting like a woman.
This woman, there's a woman. This woman is gonna say something about the amount of violent or abusive cases that happens in the U.S. Give me a second. Let me drop her. Here it goes. Ah, shucks, I've got the volume.
That men are not physically abused. According to a 30-year study done by endtodv.org, 4.2 million men, as opposed to 3.5 million women, are victims of domestic violence annually. Did you hear that? 4.2 million men, 3.5 million women. So close to 750,000 more men are victims of domestic violence than women every year. We need to stop perpetuating the myth that men are not physically abused.
So that's I didn't look up the stats, but if that's factual, that's very interesting because that's not when you hear. I sent that to someone and she never responded because she was like, "Men are abusive, and I said, "Look, 70% of domestic violence is initiated by women." And then when you hear this, there's actually more men being abused than women. Like we never hear this ever.
And another thing that we don't.
How lesbian relationships are more violent than any relationship out there.
I heard that.
Yeah.
I heard that. Yeah. But you know, that stat just quoted now, but that's only the people, the men who reported it. Most men are embarrassed to report something like that.
Absolutely.
So you can actually add about 1 million or 2 million more onto that.
Absolutely. I think 44% of lesbian relationships have domestic violence, and it's like 27%. I have the stats somewhere, but it's only like 27% of heterosexual.
Incredible, man! It's incredible.
So that tells
all
you
the propaganda.
Happened. Right? Exactly. All the propaganda.
I always feel like I'm in the Matrix when it comes to relationships between men and women. All the lies I've been told when I was a kid that I shook off when I was in my 20s, when I was in college. I even gave a speech about female privilege when I was in college. And the guys didn't get it. The guys were still, at that time, this is years ago, they were still being the gentlemen, being the knights in shining armor. Two of the girls one girl was more vocal about it, telling me that I was absolutely correct in what I was saying.
Well, the unfortunate reality of this is every man has to find red pill on his own. So yeah, you're right. It is literally like watching the movie The Matrix. Once you swallow that red pill, there's no going back. There's no going back from that.
No. Nope. And everything makes sense. It's like with politics with me. Like in 2006, when I woke up to the fact that our government is here not to protect us, but they're here to destroy us. Not just being corrupt, but I mean super corrupt. They are willing to sell America down the river for 20 pieces of silver. And until you say, like, just to divert away from the topic for a second, most people know that there's corruption. But they don't want to. They don't want to know that the corruption is so bad that first off they say my guy is great, your guy is bad, but they all make backroom deals. But they never want to really wrap their head around the fact that their favorite, that all of the politicians in Congress will sell America down the river for 20 pieces of silver. In other words, a few $1,000,000. They are willing to destroy America and us and everybody in it just for money.
Yep. Bravo, Mr. Joe. And that's exactly what's going on.
Yeah. So same thing with women. You take the red pill, like Chris was saying, you don't go back. Everything seems to make sense then about, wait a minute. So you did this, not because I was doing something wrong. It's because you are not sugar and spice and all things nice. It's because you're just a normal, natural human being, and you just felt like doing it, or you felt entitled to do it, and you didn't give a fuck about me because you thought nothing could happen to you.
Or it could be the case, Miss Joe, that some folks screws ain't tight.
Say that again, Kendricks. I didn't hear you.
I was saying, it might be simply the case that they head ain't screwed on tight. Somebody needs to tighten the bolts in them or something.
Well, of course it's not going to be tied on right. How about if you're a girl 7 years old, from the time you're 7, you're recognized as being pretty, and then you reach preteen and then teenage years, and you're told in so many words, you can do anything you want. Anything. And you will get away with it.
Yeah,
I'm
that's what I
surprised they
heard.
even want us.
You know, that's what I heard the moonshiner say. Yeah, you breaking the law only to that man with the blue lights on you getting ready to hit you.
But Joe, you have to understand, women couldn't survive without men. They would die. Even if they could clone, or even if they figured out a way to use their reproductive system and make only females, they would die off. And if they were able to still have sex, they'd be having sex with dogs and gorillas and lions and horses and donkeys. They'd still be having sex without dinner. There'd be no dinner and gifts. They'd just be having sex and with one another. But they wouldn't have a civilization. They'd be dying from drinking bad water. They'd freeze because they have no electricity, no fire, and maybe they would be riding horses. The horse would be glad to ride him because he knows he's going to get some pussy at the end of the ride.
You know, yeah. Have you ever seen Survivor?
Sometimes
have been shown. Yeah, where they pitted the men against the women.
I heard. Yeah, I heard about it.
Didn't know what the they just didn't know what the fuck to do.
Right.
To survive all by themselves without men.
Well, someone told me they did that, and they put the women on one island and the men on a separate island, and they actually had to rescue the women because they were they were starving and dehydrating. And the men may have had some scuffles with one another, but they survived. They built shelter. They figured out how to get food, how to get clean water. They figured all that stuff out.
Yeah.
And so when you say, I'm surprised the women want us, it's not the women need us. They cannot survive without us. And so if men can understand that if every woman was taken off the planet, there'd be some wars and fights, right? But men would actually build civilizations. They would continue to innovate, and they would survive until the last man dies. And that would be over 100+ years. But for women, they wouldn't last 10 years without men.
Yeah.
So
the biology is different.
I would say 3 years.
Well, no, Chris, the point is men need to understand that it's women who need us, but a lot of men have been made to understand they need women, and like men can't function without women. When we've built everything without the input or support of women, and I'm not taking away that women have never made any innovations, except women have always done it on a platform that existed, that was built by men. Women have never, to my knowledge, women have never accomplished anything without the involvement of a man, including children, giving birth. There's nothing they've done without men.
Right. I mean, hell, even look at the menstrual cycles. They were dying from infections just from their menstrual cycle until it was a man who created the tampon for them.
Well, yeah. The technical story is that the woman created something, but a doctor perfected it, and then he commercialized it. So she had used something and never told anyone about it. And the doctor was a gynecologist and was like, show me how you're using this. Okay, this is the better way to do it. I made some modifications to it, and he put a patent on it, and he commercialized it. So the woman would have just sat there for the rest of her life and selfishly never told another woman.
Right. Yeah. Meanwhile, it's the man who saw a problem and said, "Hey, there's a way we can solve this problem for all women."
What she was using was all still based on things that men had created. Even when a woman put cloth inside of her, that's still the result of men creating cloth, or wool or whatever is being used. No question. And so that's really what men need to understand, that this whole notion of equality is a ridiculous conversation. It's a waste of time. And if women really truly want to be equal, the absolute smartest way for them to do that is to pack up, move to an island, show that they can build a civilization, infrastructure, education systems, financial systems, all of that. And then once you all get it going, invite us over and we'll come check out your place, the civilization you built. But they know.
I'd love to see.
They know that's a bad move.
I'd love to see I'd love to see what species of animal would be the first one to rip their faces off.
Whoa, wait. And even after the animals come, listen, I make the joke, the pirates are going to show up, man. They're going to show up.
Oh, yeah.
The pirates are going to show up, and they're going to turn it into a brothel. And that's going to be their number one. That's going to be their number one revenue generator in tourist attraction is Whore Island.
Yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean won't seem so romantic then.
Exactly. So wait, final words, final concluding thoughts on this topic. Do women really want equality? I mean, I know we've thought about these things and talked about it before. What are your I presented some stats, some statistics, some articles, videos. So takeaways, guys, final thoughts.
No, they don't. But it's time that I say it's high time that we give it to them because they've been asking for it for so long. What it is, it's like the one guy in your neighborhood that can't fight, but he's always trying to fight people.
Right.
And there's always someone holding him back, and he's always yelling, "No, let me go, let me go, let me go." But deep down inside, he doesn't want you to let him go because he knows he's gonna get his ass whooped. That's what they're like. But I say it's high time that you let him go and let him take that ass whooping.
Well, my answer, of course, is no. They don't want equality. Equality means accountability. And accountability means that they're going to have to suffer repercussions. And if men wake up to the attitude that women are not the sugar and spices, I've always said, and all things nice, then they're not special creatures. They won't be as attractive to us as they are when they have that certain mystique and aura about them for being the princess that society has told us that they are. So they wouldn't be that attractive to us, and we would demand that they show us what do they bring to the table. And then, can you imagine also if we said, take off that fucking makeup, I want to see what you really look like. And then they take it off and man, it's like, you better go to a fucking island and build your own civilization because most fucking men are just going to go, you gotta be kidding me. No way.
Well, I give you one even better.
And you'll stop calling them ma'am and start saying, good morning, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah. No, I'm a woman. Yeah, like that guy who's 6'4" and wants to be a transgender. The fucking guy, remember? He went, holy shit. I'm a ma'am. You gotta call me ma'am. You're 6'4". You look like a linebacker. You're misgendering me. Here, eat my foot.
Hey, okay, so Joe, I want you to do this. Sorry, Dad. I want you to do this real quick, Joe. When this is over, he made a rap song, right?
Who?
He made a rap song about being transgender. Go look it up.
That
It's
guy?
absolutely hilarious.
No shit.
Yeah, it's absolutely hilarious. I could not take it serious or stop laughing.
Is it the same guy I'm talking about? The white guy with the blonde hair who was 6'4"?
Yes, the one
He
who
made a rap song?
Sam. It's
Oh.
Sam. Yes, he made a rap
no
song
shit.
about being transgender. No shit.
It's ma'am. It's ma'am. Go bam. I slam. My ma'am.
Well,
Go look it up when this stream is over.
I'm gonna have to. Holy fuck. Oh,
Final thoughts,
oh,
Kendrick.
Well, Mr. Joe, I tell you this. you just mess around and wake up one morning and somebody done robbed all the makeup department. Then it's gonna be something.
That's right. They will mount an offensive. The fucking women will come together. Yes, indeed.
Damn, geez, you really want to start some Mexican makeup and lipstick.
You know what? You're not fault.
But all of a sudden, I'm like you three gentlemen. I don't know about the crowded stuff. You know, as far as like Ted and Chris talking about with military and all this risk taking stuff, this life defying stuff. I don't know about it.
They're not gonna go for that. Who was the girl that was married with children? It was either her or some other celebrity who said there should be a law that the paparazzi can't take a picture of the female celebrities with their fucking makeup on.
Wow, really?
I forget who said that, but it was about. Who was it, Ted?
I'm just saying, wow, because I've seen some celebrities without makeup, and they are, you would think twice about touching them. So,
yo,
yeah,
good God.
So one of the things,
and they look old too.
Oh, absolutely. And like they might, when the full moon is out, they may start howling, right? So,
oh yeah, I mean, and that's on a good night.
So one of the things men need to learn to say to women is no. They need to learn to say no. And you know what, that's for a lot of things. You want an abortion? No, you want equality, so you need a signature from the father. And, that could be detrimental for women who don't know who the father really is, right? Because they can still do DNA tests when the child's in the womb. You want to be in the military? We don't have a problem, but we're initially saying no until you prove otherwise. And that means you have to carry the same weight as men. You have to run the same time when it comes for distance. You want to be in a police force, firefighter, all that stuff. Because a lot of women are delusional. And someone, I don't know if this is a fact, Chris, I didn't look it up. But I think last month or a month or two ago, some woman has become a Navy SEAL. And I'm willing to bet she didn't have to meet the same standards as the men. So,
of course. Unless she's 6'2" or something like that, yeah.
But even if she's 6'2", man,
considering only like 1% of the men in the Navy actually make it into the Navy field.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, the height. Listen, there are a lot of guys who make Navy SEAls and they are not 6'2". They are smaller than that. But anyway, that's a different story. But men need to learn to say no to women. And when women use the manipulation, you should want to take me out. And to Joe's point, great. I don't mind taking you out. You're asking me to invest money and time into you. What do I get in return?
Right.
And let women answer these questions, and instead of deflecting and telling you, well, whatever they say, right? Because they really are going to come up empty-handed with that. And then tell them they have to earn it. It's like, no, I'm not spending money on you. If you want to get to know me, if all men did that, then they actually would have to start producing something. Just like they're not producing Fortune 500s. They don't produce Fortune 500s. They're not producing the way men produce things, yet they want to be compensated or rewarded as though they are doing the same kind of productivity as men. And men need to say no to that.
Yeah, or when they ask you to take them out, just give them two behind the ear when you go to court, so you listen to what they said.
Wait, repeat that. You broke up, or I don't know.
I said, or when they ask you to take them out, just give them two behind the ear, and then when you go to court, tell them you misinterpret what she said.
You took her out. I got you. All right. Hey, Joe. intimate discussion with the sex workers on YouTube. That should be clear. And I'll check out on Blog Talk. Not sure why the sound quality was so bad. That's unfortunate. But yes, it was an interesting conversation to hear a woman be so honest about. She was really transparent. We asked her a lot of questions. But anyway, check it out. It was very interesting. So, hey guys, thanks a lot. Good comments, and there's still even comments coming in on Instagram. But didn't see that woman who had so much to say. Amazing how they take off when the rubber meets the road. So thanks a lot. Huh?
Yeah, and everybody be safe out there, okay? And enjoy the rest of your week until next time.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Guys. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care. Have a great evening and a great week. Take care. Bye. Take care.